involved. It also says that this reporting compromises the safety of the troops. And the SANDF says that the author of this story did not verify the facts with the authorities. SANDF troops are withdrawing from the DRC after an agreement was reached by SADC and the East African Community to allow peace processes to resume. Ditaba Sotetsi, SABC News.
And finally, further field hospital directors in Gaza say overnight Israeli strikes have killed at least 54 people. At least 35 died in a school sheltering displaced people in Gaza City. The BBC's Yola Nell has the details.
There are some really harrowing images circulating on social media appearing to show the building on fire and the aftermath there, with badly burned bodies, including of children. The Israeli military says that this was Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists, as it calls them, using this site as a command and controlled center, that it took steps to mitigate harm to civilians. We're also hearing of at least 19 people killed in Jabalia in northern Gaza in a strike on a house overnight, all but 2 of those from 3 generations of the same family.
The top story this hour, EFF leader Julius Malema has accused MKP leader Jacob Zuma of being pretentious about his call for black unity. This follows Zuma's long-standing call for unity amongst black and like-minded parties. Headlines at 3:30 for SAFM News, now on the National Pulse. I'm Kolofelo Defo.
And coming up in your sports, the South Athletics South Africa chief hails athletes' performances in Rabat. Ten Hag returns to management with Leverkusen, and Raducanu sets up meeting with Swiatek on French Open return. More details at 3:30.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
WAFCON defending champions Banyana Banyana have a crucial meeting with the Zebras. Both nations are elevating their preparations for the highly anticipated Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. This is the international friendly. Experience the Southern African Derby, South Africa versus Botswana, this Wednesday 28 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Hey Feel Good fam, we've got a new WhatsApp number. You know we love hearing from you, so save this. 063 036 9649. Send us your shout-outs, voice notes, or just check in like you always do. Same good vibes, just a fresh new line. That's 063 036 9649. Let's feel good together. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
This May, SAFM celebrates Africa Month with you as we honor the legacy of the Organization of African Unity. We bring you rich conversations and the vibrant sounds of Africa. Music that moves the soul. This is SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So, big question: Are you on the pulse? So much has happened over the weekend. It's been an Africa Day dominated weekend on the one hand, but it's also been dominated by issues around what may happen regarding the issues of BEE in South Africa, and some other name Elon Musk will creep into that conversation, and then the Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer song, certainly another one that's dominating the headlines, and lots of reflection are still around that trip by Ramaphosa and his contingent that went to Washington a few days ago. But there's also been the downsides of tragedy striking as a family of 6 died in a shack fire. We'll cover that too, as well as violence which left 4 people dead in the Eastern Cape, and just another horrific story, right? But let's get to the big issues. My name's Ashraf Garda. Welcome to the show. Wonderful that you're a part of it. I'll tell you what, when you're away like I am for 2 days, when I come here on a Monday, it feels like, oh my goodness, you so look forward to. There's no Blue Monday nonsense for me. I really believe if you want to fulfill your purpose, you cannot put a Monday aside and say it's blue. I'll pick up the pieces on a Tuesday. No ways. And I also know that you're listening to the show, so there's no way we can underestimate the importance of you connecting to me and me connecting to you here on the National Pulse. Talk of connection, you can WhatsApp, text or voice note 0614 104 107, and to call in live it's 086 000 2032, and do use that hashtag the National Pulse when you are tweeting on the X platform. Tag SFM Radio and do tag myself as well. Right, first things first, let's talk about South Africa's former President Thabo Mbeki, who delivered the annual Thabo Mbeki Africa Day annual lecture. It was in Tanzania, right? And many people from South Africa were there, understandably so. One of them, of course, is the SABC News international editor, Sophie Mokoena. We're going to chat to her about some of the key things that were said by the former president at the time, and all of them very current topical issues. So, Sophie, appreciate your time as always. You're on the National Pulse. Sophie, hi.
Hi, Ashraf. Can you hear me?
Yes, I certainly can. Much appreciate your time, right? Thank you so much. Right, let's get into it, right? So we know that former President Thabo Mbeki delivered the annual Africa Day lecture. And you were there, right? You also interviewed him. We'll talk about that in a moment. In terms of Africa Day and the African continent, so this is a person who is renowned for the "I am an African" speech in Parliament. What did he say about Africa this time round?
Well, he actually didn't deliver the lecture. He was hosting the lecture. Him and the foundation, the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, him being a patron, and Julius Nyerere Foundation. So it was a whole week, different activities, both foundations creating space for different groups and people, particularly young people at universities, to discuss the challenges facing Africa and what can be done. Therefore, he didn't speak much. There was a panel that spoke about challenges facing Africa, but he did make opening remarks, very short. I think it was 6 minutes, very powerful. That's where he spoke about a need for Africans to realize that with the geopolitics changing, Africa has to take its rightful place, and Africa must speak in one voice.
Now,
also,
let's talk about that. The Africa must speak in one voice. Did he explain the how? Because I wouldn't think it's the first time he said so, isn't it?
He said the only way to do it is when institutions or organizations such as the African Union are effective, or the regional organizations, your SADC, your ECOWAS, your IGAD, so that you are able to take a position that will be supported by at least the number of countries, because negotiating as individual countries, it is very problematic right now, and he made example of how difficult the United States of America is right now and the posture it has taken, and therefore you have to speak in one voice and put Africa first.
Okay, so that's the one thing, and then he said more, right? First of all, around the issue of Africa. What else did he say?
Well, he spoke about young people who are supposed to acquire much needed skills, so that all these grand plans that we are talking about, the continent is able to implement. Let's take, for example, the issue of beneficiation. Yes, beneficiation. But if you don't have skills, how are you going to even do that? But secondly, the issue of young people being involved, talking, and your leadership listening. Because he made an example of one of the speakers in the panel who said the Freedom Charter that was adopted by ANC in South Africa says the people shall govern. Are the people in power now? And then Bheki threw it back to say, are the people on the continent, all these countries, in power? Are they in power? Are they part of the governing system? You know?
Mm-hmm. Did he answer the question himself? Are they in power?
He didn't. But he indicated that there are challenges. You can't really say, yes, in terms of what the Freedom Charter said, the people shall govern. There are issues and areas where this is not a reality.
Okay, let's move on then to the very topical issue for South Africa as well, which is that visit to the White House. What did former President Thabo Mbeki say about that?
No, I spoke to him. He indicated that, he was taken aback by President Trump's, drama in terms of those videos. But above all, and you hear the voice and the face and the hands, body language. When he talks about, he can't believe that somebody can use misinformation and disinformation, when you are at that level. All of us, that's what we are saying. I mean, we are not talking about a councillor in a small village who doesn't have access to information, support system, advisors, and access to internet and everything, and even access to state security to verify every information. Because when you open your mouth as a leader of a country, you must know that whatever you are going to utter have impact, and therefore you have at all times to ensure that whatever you say, it's factual, it's not fake news. And that is why sometimes when you want to doorstop a leader, they don't want to talk, because sometimes the person doesn't have facts. Because you open your mouth, you respond in this way, the next day people are saying, but that's not the case.
But then did he deduce why?
The credibility of the office.
But then did he offer a reason as to why Trump is behaving the way he is? Because, I mean, you already made the point. There's no question that American intelligence would know everything. So this is not a case of they're in the dark. This is a case of them being deliberately manipulative about information for whatever goal. Did former President Thabo Mbeki say anything about that?
He locates the problem on global scale, global level, to say America is repositioning itself. That America First slogan didn't mean America First slogan the way we interpret it. It was America First at the global level. We lead at the global level. We cannot allow a situation where you have multipolar. It has to be a unipolar. So within the multipolar world, how is America going to ensure that it's still a leader? And therefore, any country, any individual who stands in the way of America First, or America trying to navigate the new terrain to continue to be a leader, you will be dealt with. South Africa is doing that, not directly, but based on the policies and the principle the country stands for. For example, the issue of the Middle East, the issue of Israel. There's no way America will agree to South Africa taking Israel to ICJ. And let me tell you, he once told me that he once engaged Bush in Washington about how can they resolve the issue of Palestine. He told me that Bush told him in no uncertain term to say, Mr. President, I can help you with everything. I'm open for South Africa to engage and work with South Africa. But on that question of Israel, no sitting president of the United States of America will be able to resolve that problem, because America will always stand with Israel. This is breaking news. Yes, I'm trying to tell you the reality. And that's why, for me, it made sense, and I could understand with this background, because when you interview people, when you are done, you talk. And that's where you get to learn.
Now, fair point. Yeah. Okay. What did Thabo Mbeki say about South Africa's performance at the White House, led by Cyril Ramaphosa, our incumbent president?
No, he didn't. Typical Mbeki, he looks ahead. He's not there anymore. He's far now. I don't know what is he thinking. But one thing that he is firm on since day one, the first time I spoke to him about America, was that you can still turn the situation around. And he still believes that this situation can be turned around. And we know he speaks to different people around the world. You'd recall that at that time, the officials from the U.S. Embassy visited him at his house. We saw the visuals. So this is the person who engaged with people. I'm sure behind the scenes he's doing something to speak to people that he might know in the U.S. Maybe I should hold it there. I should hold it there. Time will come. Right. Time will come. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about something that is certainly in the news right now. Kill the Boer, kill the farmer. Thabo Mbeki pronounced on that. What did he say?
Well, I asked him again there. He spoke with passion. I had to record that clip with a cell phone because I was done with the interview. Then I said, no, man, I need this response for news. And then said, no, fine. That's my view. He says he is not going to change from his presentation at the TRC. This is a chant. It's not meant to send a message for people to kill. It was not meant for that. At that time, even now, they were always fighting for people to survive, not to be killed. And therefore, he is not going to change his mind. And he is saying people are just evoking the emotions in terms of using that song as a scapegoat in terms of the challenges the country is facing. And you would recall, Malema is not starting today with...
It's an old thing, yeah.
After 2024, when ANC lose majority, then this song becomes a problem.
But Sophie, very quickly...
But he has been singing this song.
Okay, Sophie, in 20 seconds, did Thabo Mbeki then say, he gave the context, but did he say it's okay to continue singing? Just a quick answer on that, because we're on to, we need to go for a break.
He didn't say whether it's, but he defended the song. And I think in the same way the Constitutional Court has done. The Constitutional Court has ruled on this matter. Right. It's not going to change.
And that's where
there's no recourse.
Thank you for that, Sophie Mokoena, the SABC News International Editor. And by the way, we will play that Thabo Mbeki, some of the clips coming up soon.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit cfi.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45, proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
As a business owner, I've noticed how being energy efficient has improved my savings and the growth of my business. You too can improve your margins by adopting energy efficient behaviors. Simply switch to energy saving lighting, switch off non-essential equipment, and maintain HVAC systems. These are some of the ways you can use electricity wisely to see your business soar, as well as contribute to a greener planet. Just like every rand counts, every kilowatt counts. Let's use electricity wisely. Eskom.
Extraordinary doesn't just happen. It's built, brick by digital brick. With every connection, every innovation, every leap forward. A cloud that scales with your vision. Security that earns your trust.
AI that empowers smarter decisions. IoT that connects what truly matters. Connectivity that bridges every gap. We're not just building technology, we're building the future of South Africa. Stronger businesses, thriving communities, a nation connected, empowered, and ready to lead. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Start your journey at vodacombusiness.co.za. Vodacom Business. Further together.
As a medical doctor, I've dedicated my life to helping others. Being a regular blood donor, I was shocked to learn of my low hemoglobin levels, which prompted further investigations. My diagnosis of myelodysplastic syndrome meant that my only chance of survival would be through a stem cell transplant. Finding a match was easier for me than for most patients. However, not everyone is so lucky. If you are between the ages of 17 and 55 years, register with dkmsafrica.org to become a stem cell donor and give someone out there a lifeline. This is an SABC-supported initiative.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So we'll play some sound clips of that Sophie Mokoena, Thabo Mbeki interview coming up in the next hour, right? We'll also chat to Zwelinzima Babi pretty soon about their position, the SAFTU position regarding Ramaphosa's trip to the USA, and now the issues of what may happen in terms of a deal that may see Elon Musk benefit. We'll come to that just now. But let's talk about the islands of the Chagos Islands on the one hand, and what some of you may be very familiar with, the Diego Garcia, and how all of that is linked to three countries, the USA, the United Kingdom, and Mauritius as well. Let's find out, because there's some significant developments that have taken place. With me now is Ashwani Budos-Coles, the Deputy Director for Africa at Human Rights Watch. Much appreciate your time, Ashwani. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Thank you for having me, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. So you better fill us in the details here. I mean, I would think some people may not even be familiar that there was an issue in the first place. That was 50 years ago. So what is the context then, and what's happened now?
Remember, you asked for details, right? So about 60 years ago, the United Government secretly planned with the United States to force an entire indigenous people, who we called the Chagosians, from their home in the Chagos Archipelago. And they were part of Mauritius, which was then a UK colony. And they agreed that a US military base would be built on Diego Garcia, which is one of the islands of the Chagos Archipelago. And it was the largest of the inhabited Chagos Islands. And from 1965 to 1973, they forced the entire Chagosian population from all the islands, not only Diego Garcia, but others such as Peos Banos and Salomon. And they abandoned them. And if you hear to the Chagosians, they were literally herded like cattle. In Mauritius or Seychelles, where they lived, and some of them who I spoke to in 2022 are still living in abject poverty, especially in Mauritius and Seychelles. And years later, the UK paid, through the Mauritian government, because they don't recognize Chagosian as a separate population, a small amount of compensation to some Chagosians. And decades later started awarding citizenship to Chagosians to come to the UK. When I was speaking to the Chagosians about the amount of money received and whether this does not constitute compensation, they said the amount was very minimal. It was about, I think if I convert it into rands, it was about, let's say, about 15,000 rands. And that, some of them used that to buy food. Some of them used that to pay the debts that they had because they were in the country. So for many years, the government of Mauritius has claimed the return of its sovereignty over the territory of Chagos. And in 2022, the UK government finally announced that it had opened negotiations with Mauritius on the future of the Chagos Islands. And we were all very excited because this would mean that there would be an end to the whole grip of the UK on Mauritius. But then one thing that we have noticed during the whole process is that Chagossians were not included, and if they were included by the different governments, and there were negotiations between the two countries and not the two countries and Chagossians.
Yeah. So, okay, fast forward to the present then. What is now being agreed and what are the implications thereof?
Okay, so last Thursday, I think there was a lot of speculation about whether it was going to be concluded or not, because there was an injunction by two Chagossian ladies about the treaty not being signed, but that injunction was lifted. So last Thursday, the UK and Mauritius announced that they had agreed on a treaty concerning the Chagos archipelago. And that treaty will last for 99 years from now, and it basically grants sovereignty to Mauritius and authorizes the UK to exercise rights and authorities over Diego Garcia, where the UK and US operate a military base. And that came with a financial aspect where it stipulated that the UK would pay Mauritius £101 million a year for the military base. And it also stipulates that Mauritius is free to implement a program of resettlement of Chagossians in any other island except for Diego Garcia.
Okay.
And
so Diego Garcia is still off limits.
Yes. So while this is where the military base is, remember. And the one thing that we've been advocating for is return to all islands, including Diego Garcia, because some of the people you spoke to are from Diego Garcia and they want to go to the islands where their forefathers lived, where their parents were born. And while this is definitely a step in the right direction, the fact that Diego Garcia was not given as part of the deal is a big block, because it shows that they're not really concerned about the return of Chagossians to where they came from, but rather let's give them the other islands and the one will keep it for our purposes.
Okay.
And it is
Yeah. So therefore, as we get into news time, so I'm going to wrap up very quickly. Just so in terms of how has it been received now, certainly by, as you said, the Chagossians, and what do you think will actually happen?
So while this is definitely a step in the right direction and is being lauded by the international community, Mauritius and some Chagossians as a victory against colonialism, many Chagossians are not happy since they were not meaningfully consulted. There is an amount that the UK is going to give to Mauritius for the Chagos Welfare Fund to consolidate it, but they tell you this is not what they want. They want to go to their countries. They wanted to have been participated in the treaty negotiation. And when we spoke to UK authorities, they told us that it's difficult because there's no one unified voice. And it's true, there's no one unified voice, but they should have at least tried to consult with different fractions of the Chagossians. So going forward, I think they need, and the treaty does talk, like it seems like there's finality with the treaty. We hope that the Mauritian government does recognize them as an indigenous group and include them meaningfully in whatever they're planning next.
Well, we're going to follow that story. Ashwani Budos-Holz, Deputy Director for Africa at the Human Rights Watch. Well, that's another classic example of an entire, call it a country. It's a small island. I know, a tiny island in the Indian Ocean, right? But an entire groups of people being just shafted aside to solve one problem or to provide a solution to your need and say, well, let's just sort them out and shift them off to Mauritius, and like half a century of doing just that. And the implications of those people are far bigger than you and I can imagine, isn't it? Okay, let's get to the news headlines. Here's a Kolofelo.
Thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon. I'm Kolofelo Tefo. In the headlines this hour, relatives of the family of 6 people who perished in a shack fire at the Marikana informal settlement in KwaThema, Ekurhuleni, say they are devastated by what they describe as a lack of urgency from emergency services. Nkele Phahla, her partner Joseph Sibia, and their 4 children, including a 1-year-old, died in the blaze that broke out in the early hours of the morning. The violence that erupted in Ado in the Eastern Cape over the weekend was sparked by the murder of the 22-year-old Jean September on Saturday night, allegedly by foreign nationals. 3 foreign nationals were killed in what is believed to be a revenge attack. And EFF leader Julius Malema has accused MK party leader Jacob Zuma of being pretentious about his call for black unity. I'll have details of this and other stories at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng on the N14 northbound in Pretoria, a truck crash reported on the off-ramp to Eophius Road, so expect delays. The N1 southbound in Devlin has a crash at Golden Highway, and Mabopane Highway northbound in Pretoria has delays at Theo Martins. In KZN, the N2 southbound in Amanzimtoti queuing towards Duneside. The N2 southbound has a stationary truck before the M25 Commercial Highway. The N3 outbound has a crash reported at Berea, and on the N2 northbound a stationary vehicle after Spaghetti Junction. And in Cape Town, Victoria Road outbound, slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Kapele.
It's Monday, so we look forward to a new week. But anyway, Monday also is about quick reflection. You had 4 serious predictions on Friday. How did you do?
I didn't do that great, but I got Chelsea right. I got Akani Simbini right. Charles Leclerc came out second and didn't win. The MBB, the South African basketball side, lost all the games this weekend. And what else did I get wrong? I think that's it.
Okay, so 2 right, 2 wrong.
Yeah.
50%.
50%. Not too bad. Not too bad. Well, a very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. We start things off with athletics, where Athletics South Africa's commission chairperson, Hendrik Mkhanyetsi, says that the sport's future looks promising. This is after the strong showing of 10 South African athletes at the Diamond League meet in Rabat, Morocco last night. Mkhanyetsi believes that Athletics South Africa is making the right strides ahead of the World Senior Champs in Japan. Akani Simbini, Prudence Khodiso, and Zakiti Nene delivered standout performances in Morocco, with Simbini claiming victory in the 100-meter with a time of 9.95 seconds. Khodiso finishing second in the women's 800-meter in 1 minute 57.52 seconds, and Nene securing second place in the men's 400-meter in 44.46 seconds.
I think the overall performance of our athletes shows the continuity the athletes that are making on the world stage, and also put the federation on the upper level in compared to where we're coming from and what we are developing to achieve. You know, athletes are being exposed to such competitions so that they explore their talent. And as a federation, that's our responsibility that we've been doing, creating a conducive environment for the athletes to go and perform and showcase their talent. So we are very excited, and there's a bright future for athletics, and the athletes are very excited for the federation, what it's doing.
In football, Banyana have officially reported for camp in Pretoria as they shift gears in the final phase of preparations for the 2025 Women's Africa Cup of Nations in July. The camp coincides with the 3 Nation Series, a tri-nation friendly tournament featuring South Africa, Botswana and Zambia. A squad of 22 players already in camp, including the highly anticipated return of Refilwe Jane, whose leadership and midfield prowess will be very vital as the team builds momentum ahead of the continental showdown. Meanwhile, interim SuperSport United coach Andrea Rense says now all focus shifts to their final league fixture, and SuperSport remain in serious relegation danger following their 2-0 defeat to Richards Bay at the FC at the Old Peter Mokaba Stadium. Remember, they are replaying their match against the Golden Arrows, where only the second half will be played starting at 1-1.
There's a couple of elements that we've got to think about going to that game. We go into only one half. We go into it with already 1 point, which is more or less what we need, for example. So we have to go into the game with that mindset, but at the same time, we cannot afford to be on the back foot. So we cannot afford to close up shop, because then we are going to invite unnecessary pressure. And when you do that, you are prone to mistakes. We cannot afford one single mistake in that half of football that's to come.
Elsewhere, former Manchester United boss Erik ten Hag has been appointed as manager of Bayer Leverkusen on a 2-year contract. The 55-year-old replaces Xabi Alonso, who left Leverkusen to join Real Madrid. Now, ten Hag has been out of a job since getting sacked by United in October, with Old Trafford, a club languishing 14th in the Premier League table. And his most successful stint came at Ajax Amsterdam, who he coached from 2018 to 2022. In tennis, former US Open winner Emma Raducanu made a winning return to Roland Garros as she beat Wang Xingyu at 7-5, 4-6 and 6-3 to set up a second-round clash with reigning champion Iga Swiatek. She will meet four-time Swiatek in that round of 64. This is after the Pole swept 6-3 and 6-3 against Rebecca Sramkova, and Casper Ruud started his latest bid to reach another French Open final with a crushing 6-3, 6-4 and 6-2 win. This is over Albert Vinoilhas, and up next for Ruud is Portugal's Nuno Borges. Finally, my MVP of this weekend, I cannot continue mentioning and highlighting the brilliant performance of Akani Simbini, making it 5 out of 5 wins this year. Also his third Diamond League victory of the season. But I think for me, I found it very interesting in terms of his interview after the race, how he's so focused on the upcoming talent after him.
I've got a question.
It's really exciting, and it's really like a good thing and a cool thing for South Africa. You know, we've never had so many sprinters coming out and running, and it's not just in the 100 meters, it's 100, 200, 400, you know. South Africa was always known as a distance nation. Now the sprinters coming out, you know, and it's great that after me, there's a new generation that can take on and do better than what I'm doing. You know, that's what I want, and that's what I've been asking for the last 10 years.
I'll repeat, this is Akani's year.
Okay, listen, there's somebody who has a question to ask as you talk about Akani's year. All I want to know from Akani is like, when do we interview him, man? But here's a question. Here's a question from an audience. Listen.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Can you please ask to me if it's possible for a player to double up as a player of under 20 or under 23 and Bafana?
Absolutely.
Like Mofokeng or Vilakazi of Kaizer Chiefs. Can he still play for Bafana and under 20 at the same time? I hope my question makes sense. Thank you very much, Peter Maila Machaba from Letswapa.
If he can be if he can be instrumental to the national team, and Hugo Bruce feels like he's also needed there. Absolutely. And
I think his point is not whether he's good enough, is does it disqualify you? If you're playing for the senior team, does it disqualify you playing for the underage team? If he is in that age group, obviously
I think if he's in the age group, he can do both. He can definitely do both. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
You are listening to Night Talk.
Taxi violence in South Africa has a long history. Why has violence and the taxi industry in South Africa become so inextricably tied?
And it's a problem that has been happening, at least since the late 80s, when the industry was still regulated. And in actual fact, I would like to just regard it as an industry that has deep historical roots in terms of the violence, dates back to the apartheid era, and also one of the things that I've recognized through my research over the years is actually what I call the state's failure to integrate the industry into the formal transport system, which continues to operate under stiff competition between taxi associations.
Dr. Siabulela Fobosi, who's a senior researcher at Fort Hare University.
Night Talk, Monday to Thursdays, 10 to midnight. Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio. You're listening to the National Pulse.
And talking about streaming live, besides live, and you can listen audio and also listen on visuals on YouTube and Facebook, as well as on the X platform, so you can see us in action as well if you're really up for all that sort of thing. And then catch the podcast. We have podcasts of just about every single major interview we do on the show every single day. Go to SAFM, the website, safm.goza, and then /podcast/the National Pulse. We had a fascinating Friday fireside chat guest. I wonder if you heard that. I'll tell you about that just now. Let's get on to something that's critically important too, I suppose. We all have positions. We all have views. In fact, as I walked in to studio now, I had somebody just goes by. I was like, hey, what's your view about what happened at the White House? And you take a turn and somebody else wants to know. So I'll tell you what, forget my opinion. What about the opinion of Zwelinzima Vavi? He's the General Secretary of the South African Federation of Trade Unions. He'll talk about that as well as the potential changes to South Africa's BEE policies, which may or may not be a good thing, accepting many people are linking the changes to the visit to the White House. So Zwelinzima Vavi, I much appreciate your time as always. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ash, and good afternoon to everybody, including your colleagues in the studio there.
Much appreciated. Right, first things first, let's give me your assessment of what happened at the White House.
Well, my impression now that there is an announcement by Minister Malatsi to change and ease the regulations that are so critical to South Africa's communication and digital technologies. Our sense is that we have been played by the brinkmanship and very clever strategy of Donald Trump. And either our government, willy-nilly or out of panic, have played right into his hand in this way. Firstly, you're not going to convince anyone, not in 2025, that Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and all of those tycoons are not aware or don't know that there is no genocide in South Africa, or that there is no confiscation of the farms willy-nilly left, right, and center, and that there is no one race targeted for abuse by the state or anyone else. They know that, and they knew this all along, but they played this and hyped it up in the media, used their monopoly and access to the X to pump this story, this narrative that there's a genocide.
Okay, in the hope of getting what?
In the hope of blackmailing South Africa to agree to what it was reluctant to do before, and that is to allow an entry into the South African market by Starlink, and including attacking on South Africa's transformation law, BEE 30%, and a massive attack to say that this is a race-based law, when they know that this is an attempt to redress and to ensure that there is a broader participation into the economy by the formerly excluded citizens of the country.
All right.
So they pump this, and I think that they have succeeded, isn't it?
Well, isn't it is what I'll leave to you and to others too, right? If they've done that. Let's talk then about Solly Malatsi, the Minister of Communications, with his proposed amendments to the BEE policies, right? Give us your thoughts of what is your understanding of what is he proposing and what offends you so. If we just park aside Starlink for the moment, look at the principle as opposed to Starlink.
We have just written a letter to the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Communication and Digital Technologies, Chairperson Sango Netiko, to ask for an urgent discussion so that we can raise with the committee our disgust and alarm that Honorable Solly Malatsi is now pursuing actions that could potentially undermine South Africa's established regulatory frameworks, including laws governing spectrum licensing, ownership requirements, and data sovereignty. Because the reports flowing from his announcement is that he seeks to circumvent and or amend critical legislations that safeguards and expedite in order to expedite foreign investment, or he claims to be. We see this as directly linked to this South Africa being played in this meeting of billionaires in the Oval Office in Washington.
But just so that we understand it, What's the difference between what is being proposed regarding the BEE changes to what is the currently acceptable model, flawed or not flawed? Where do you see the difference, and what do you find so wrong about the difference?
Well, the Independent Communication Authority of South Africa, ICASA, is and the legislation that put it together are very categorical, that there must be participation by the formerly excluded, and that at least there must be 30% participation into any foreign investment into South Africa. Now that is being circumvented by this announcement by Minister Malatsi, and we've taken issue with that. Not that we are the fans of the BEE, by the way. We have already stated over and over that black economic empowerment, at least as practiced in South Africa over the past 31 years, have led to the massive growing inequalities even within the black communities. We don't like it.
Yeah, I saw that from your statement. I saw that from your statement, right? So you don't agree with the current model, and I think in simple terms, if I have to paraphrase you, almost suggesting it's a narrow-based economic empowerment that's benefited a few. So how would you change the model anyway?
Socialization. We want the state ownership. We want to expand the role of a developmental state in almost every sphere of our economy. And you know that we have been calling for the nationalization of the mineral industry under the worker control and under the communities. We have opposed the introduction of the independent power producers and argued that the expansion of the green economy must be a responsibility handed over to Eskom and the communities that are going to be impacted upon by the introduction of the transition, a just transition to the carbon-less economy. So
let's see how that plays out.
We argue for the socialization and not this narrow definition of black economic empowerment that just produces few sets of multi-billionaires that continues with the exploitation of the masses of the people.
Let's wrap up just by dealing with the current once again. I mean, you spoke about the entire visit and now this issue of this BEE rethink, and I'm quoting your official statement, as imperialist blackmail, deception as well comes into play, right? Now, interestingly enough, I mean, you also refer to Kusela Diko, as you said, you wrote a letter to her, but she herself has effectively summoned Minister Malatsi for a briefing. What does that tell you? The fact that the chairperson has summoned the minister, that clearly tells me they're not in sync.
Exactly. Which again makes us happy, isn't it? Because it tells you that there's part of the dynamics of this government of national unity will be that a minister will come from a different ideological setting, such as the DA, and I'm not saying that this is a typical DA move. This is a government of national unity move, but then there is a chairperson of the portfolio committee from the same party that leads the government of national unity, but that clearly does not subscribe to this allowing total takeover of our technologies by some imperialist forces that are going to use, in this case, Starlink, to get into this country in a way to dominating the technologies of the entire African continent.
All right, and very, very quickly, I see Kumbudzo Ntshabeni tweeting as well, saying, and I quote, if South Africa wants to introduce low-orbit satellite into space, every other player will be allowed to apply, but they must play within the rules of this country. And he talks about the rules. The rules of this country requires transformation. And he goes on, I'm not going to read the whole thing, right? Just a quick answer of that one, and you got like 10 seconds. Are you hopeful that things will go the way that you'd want it to go, or the Elon Musk way? Quick answer.
We want the current regulations to remain. We don't want exceptions to be provided to Elon Musk and his company Starlink. We want the integrity of parliamentary processes to be protected, and we welcome the tweet by
and that's where we leave it. Thank you so much for your time as well.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The Copper Queens and the Zebras want to test each other's strength. This is not just an international friendly, they are gearing up for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Witness the thrilling battle between Zambia and Botswana on Saturday 31 May at 3 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Get your payments done with the utmost security and convenience when you purchase a TV license now. With our new secure payment systems with a one-time PIN, OTP feature, and the choice of receiving your OTP via SMS or email, you can ensure prompt and secure payments. The additional use of CAPTCHA will protect you against spam and automated data attractions. With TV licenses, you can enjoy watching all your favorite shows or movies that matter to you. Get yours today. Visit www.tvlic.co.za.
Do you want to study towards a tertiary qualification but need a flexible study schedule? Stadio Higher Education's distance learning qualifications offer just that. Our distance learning support is designed for your success. 2025 applications to Stadio's range of high-quality, affordable qualifications are now open. Distance learning qualifications are available in law, administration and management, commerce, teacher education, policing, law enforcement, humanities, and information technology. Visit stadio.ac.za and register today. Stadio, a new vision in higher education.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
All right, lots to pick up from what you have to say, because, I mean, one of the big issues of the national pulse is not just do we reflect the pulse as in the big players, but certainly you and your opinions contributes greatly to understanding whether we truly are on the pulse or not, isn't it? Right, here's comment.
Ashraf, I hear Malema says Ramaphosa failed to defend the song, but he also failed in court. He ended up remixing the song saying, "Kiss the poor, kiss the farmer." Hey, this is skills in Newcastle.
Okay. Let's just put that on pause and get some other comments too, right? Here's another.
Hi, good day, sir. The BEE policy is a corrupt policy. It's a policy that deters growth in South Africa, and I'm glad that there's going to be a change of policy so that foreign investment can come into South Africa, that new job markets can open, and South Africa can prosper, and more people can get employed. So I'm glad BE can be done, hopefully be done away with, and Starlink, and who knows Tesla, and who knows what else can come to South Africa, Cape Town.
But are we suggesting that the current policy has prevented to be sort of foreign investment in this country? I don't think that's true. I mean, and you can debate about the merits of how it's implemented, but really?
Hi, Ashraf and the SAFM listener. Ashraf, you know what? The people at the rural area, at the other provinces except Western Cape and Gauteng, they will never even see the light of freedom. They will suffer forever. The tar road, for them to see the tar road, they need to go into their nearest town or their nearest township. Nothing is going to happen then. They will vote him forever. The only thing the government after that, of that day, they will just go into Soweto and Joburg and renew it.
I hope you live in the right place then, if that's what you're telling me. And in light of all of that, well, here's one about the people who should govern.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Siyabonga Mzimela at Newcastle. I like the point that you mentioned there of a freedom charter that said people shall govern. So the question is, who will govern the people? Do we have someone who's have that capacity to govern us? What is required for someone to govern people? As our economy is not in our hand, how can we govern us? Who can govern us?
I mean, we can have a whole discussion about the nature of a state, isn't it? And so the people govern by voting in the right people, and once they do effectively, and this can't really change, can it? Then you have a proxy president who represents the people. Say that president doesn't deliver, then the people can remove that president. The people ultimately must always have the power, but do they? That's a big question.
But realistically speaking, the Constitutional Court must revisit their rule in as far as the song is concerned, you see, because it's really becoming too controversial, you see. Its meaning, its context, you see. So now it's creating a lot of enemies around the world to the South Africans. Kill the Boer, kill the farmer, kill. No, man. It should stop now. Thanks. It's William Nkuma.
In fact, we'll play some of that sound of Julius Malema later on, just reflecting on that. I mean, so one is what is the legal situation, which I think we know it's allowed because it's symbolical, as Thabo Mbeki himself says. The other is that, does it actually serve a purpose? What purpose does it really serve now? Think about it.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Mcete here in Kala. Concerning this new deal with Elon Musk, Ashraf, South Africa is doomed to fail and perish under this conflicted, self-centered president. Together with its administration from 2019, it's been even worse. Every step it takes challenging unnecessary wars and conflicts with other countries. While these leaders know these countries they challenge don't even honor world declarations in terms of wars, South Africa will soon become another Iraq under its despotic leader, Saddam Hussein. Thanks, Ashraf.
Goodness, you said so much in 30 seconds. And the last one about Iraq. We don't want to be another Iraq. We know what happened to it. They looked for weapons of mass destruction. They destroyed the whole country and they found nothing.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Afternoon, South Africa. I'm so perturbed, Ashraf, by the so-called leaders of the free world who only doesn't tolerate but enable that people in densely populated areas must be bombed and burned to death. And they still call themselves leaders of the so-called free world. Are they ashamed of themselves? I'm ashamed of us who tolerate such nonsense to go on. Major from Batem.
Well, I mean, it's such an interesting one. And you now heard about this whole group of young people again being bombed overnight here in Gaza, and again a whole lot of people dying. So whatever the merits of or how you may be critical of whoever killed, let's say Hamas killing 1,000+ people in Israel, how do you then equate that with killing 40, 50, 60,000 people, always saying the same thing? We're trying to effectively smoke out Hamas. And in doing that, with all their sophistication, they're unable to smoke them out, so they destroy an entire country. And there's so little global condemnation of the people that truly matter. And that last point from Sophie Mokoena in the conversation I had with her earlier about George W. Bush saying, as far as Israel is concerned, leave that alone. We cannot even go there. So my words, his words to her. Let's get the news. Here's Kolofelo. It's 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories. The Sawa family members shattered after 6 killed in a Ekurhuleni fire, and Malema criticizes Zuma's call for black unity. Good afternoon. Relatives of the family of 6 people who perished in a shack fire at the Marikana informal settlement in KwaThema, Ekurhuleni, say they are devastated by what they describe as a lack of urgency from emergency services. Nkele Phahla, her partner Joseph Sibiya, and their 4 children, including a 1-year-old, died in the blaze that broke out in the early hours of the morning. A 7-year-old girl, the sole survivor, is currently in ICU for burn injuries. The Phahla family say they tried desperately to save their loved ones, but it was too late. Family member Frankie Phahla says community members had to physically go to the fire station after waiting for over an hour without a response from the fighters.
Service delivery has to be the number one issue when it comes to issues like this, because we waited for the fire department for over an hour. So unfortunately, that's how the state of our country is in right now. So
the following story contains graphic details that may be upsetting for sensitive listeners, including children. The violence that erupted in Ado in the Eastern Cape over the weekend was sparked by the murder of the 22-year-old Jean September on Saturday night, allegedly by foreign nationals. 3 foreign nationals were killed in what is believed to be a revenge attack. The father of Jean, Gerald September, says people came knocking on his door to inform him about the incident. September says he was not worried at first, knowing Jean was with his older brother.
I heard the people talking what happened, how he was stabbed, how he cried, running around, screaming for help. Then he get a yard, fall over it. The lady in the house said she heard him screaming, and he fell into a yard. There was blood all over.
EFF leader Julius Malema has accused MK Party leader Jacob Zuma of being pretentious about his call for black unity. This follows Zuma's long-standing call for unity amongst black and like-minded parties. In its formative stages, the MKP worked with the EFF and formed the Progressive Caucus in Parliament. But the relations of the two parties soured with the departure of the EFF's former Deputy President, Floyd Shivambu, who is now the MKP's Secretary General, together with Dalimpo Mzwanele Manyi and advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, among others. Malema brands the MKP as his enemy, saying he will never work with a party that seeks to destroy the EFF.
We will never unite with Zuma, who wants to kill the EFF. Whether Trump says the same thing about the two of us, we don't care. We must never be tempted to unite with the agents who want to destroy the EFF. If Zuma wants unity of black people, why did he form MK when there was EFF? There is no unity they are talking about. They are pretentious about it. Zuma is about himself and about his family. That's why he went to form that Spaza show.
Meanwhile, MK Party Secretary General Floyd Shivambu is unyielding, saying if some party leaders don't want unity with his party, what matters for them is the voters, not the leaders.
Comrades, don't worry about leaders of black political parties that say they do not want unity with MK. We are going to unite voters, leave them alone. We have already started in KwaZulu-Natal. This unity that we are asking for, we're not begging it. We are demanding unity of black people. And if leaders don't want to unite, we're going to unite the voters. Our people know what they want. Our people can see that these are charlatans.
The daughter of the late ANC leader Nkosi Albert Luthuli has told the Pietermaritzburg High Court that the family believes that her father was hit at the back of his head with a steel object. Dr. Albertina Luthuli, a medical doctor, is testifying in the reopened inquest into her father's death. This comes after the 1967 inquest found that Luthuli died after being struck by a train as he was walking along a railway track. The reopened inquest is looking into the circumstances surrounding the death of the ANC leader. Evidence leader advocate Anna Chweni read Dr. Luthuli's statement in court, describing what she believes happened on the railway bridge over the Mvoti River.
We are convinced as a family that when he was holding on the rail, an instrument was used by someone in the train to hit him on the back of the head. This instrument, which was used to hit him at the back of the head, was heavy enough to crack his skull, and as he struggled to survive the hit, he held more on the rail and would have twisted his hands and wrist and perhaps even the lower arms, causing damage to those parts. The loss of blood would result in him becoming faint and finally falling on the pedestrian steel plate.
Dr. Albertina Luthuli has told the court that even after going to check the accident scene, she was not convinced that her father was hit by the train.
Myself as a doctor, along my line of practice, I had seen people who were knocked by train and brought to casualty in hospitals. The victims brought in were so badly injured and damaged that they did not survive. I expected a very messy and bloody sight. In fact, I remarked to Tulani the lawyer that there was blood on the left-hand side of the railway, which suggested that there was a squirt and then less around. I expected to find a lot of blood spread all over the place. What I expected to find at the scene when somebody has been hit by a train was simply not there.
The top story this hour, relatives of the family of 6 people who perished in a shack fire at the Marikana informal settlement in Guatemala, Ekurhuleni, say they are devastated by what they describe as a lack of urgency from emergency services. Headlines at 4:30 for SAFM News. I'm Kolofelo Defo.
In sports this hour, Liverpool parade title with the Open Top Bus Parade and nominees announced for SAURC Player of the Season. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange. Mabopane Highway northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Theo Martins, and the M1 southbound is roadworks with traffic restrictions at Omonde, and that's causing some delays. In KZN, the N3 eastbound has a stationary truck before Ashburton exit. Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound slow moving towards Okavango Road exit. The M5 southbound queuing towards Milner Road, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
WAFCON defending champions Banyana Banyana have a crucial meeting with the Zebras. Both nations are elevating their preparations for the highly anticipated Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. This is the international friendly. Experience the Southern African Derby, South Africa versus Botswana, this Wednesday 28 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Your nights just got a turbo boost. Buckle up, because at 10 p.m. it's all thrill, mystery and pure entertainment. Mondays to Wednesdays, we are back on the track with Top Gear Season 14, where speed meets insanity and the world's wildest cars get pushed to their limits. On Thursdays, we uncover the truth in Imposter, Back from the Dead. Season 1 kicks off with chilling twists in a tale of deception, survival, and secrets long buried. Fridays, we take a deep dive into the unknown with Secrets of the Bermuda, exploring the myths, the disappearances, and the terrifying truth behind the world's most infamous triangle. 3 explosive shows, 1 unforgettable hour. It all starts at 10 p.m. only on S3. Don't miss it!
This May, SAFM celebrates Africa Month with you as we honor the legacy of the Organization of African Unity. We bring you rich conversations and stories that shape the continent. Join us as we celebrate African pride, unity, and progress. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, we have heard in the news, there's some other disturbing, in fact, 2 disturbing issues away from the issues of the national spotlight and what happens globally, and Elon Musk and Donald Trump, about the issues of human life and the loss of human life. Later on, we will chat about a shack fire that claimed the lives of 6 family members in Guatemala in Marikana Extension 3 coming up just now. But for now, here's another story that's just horrific. Reports coming out of the Eastern Cape that violence broke out between local and foreign nationals in a place called Addo. At the time of the report now, 4 people, we understand, have been reported dead, 10 others hospitalized. Let's get the thoughts of SABC News reporter in the Eastern Cape, Lerato Fekisi, who's been covering the story and now joined us on the line. Lerato, appreciate your time here on the National Pulse.
Very good afternoon to you.
Thank you. It's a horrible story. Tell us more.
Absolutely horrific. We actually got to speak to the father of Juan September, who is at the center of the story, because as we heard from one of the residents and also from him, that on Saturday night, Juan went to a local tavern in Addo in a township called Valencia, where allegedly he was stabbed by a foreign national. And then obviously in retaliation to that, what happened that on Sunday morning, people in Valencia township report and talk about the streets being filled with foreign nationals running out of their houses, running down the street, running away from what they allege were coloureds who were chasing them down the streets. One of the neighbours we spoke to said that they were carrying a spade, some of them carrying knives, some of them carrying bricks, and just literally attacking, allegedly, as they say, anyone who came across to be a Zimbabwe national. And that's where it stands now. Like you said, that 4 people have died, that the 3 dying obviously on the street being attacked by the colours, and the one being Juan September, who would say where this whole uproar started after he was stabbed allegedly by a foreign national on Saturday night.
Okay, it's really terrible. And I mean, now, so what we understand is 4 people killed. When you say foreign national, local, I mean, what's the argument about that part, that who was local and who was foreign, or just coincidental?
Just really coincidental. I mean, even when the father spoke to us, he didn't come across or didn't even vocalize that his son was fighting with a foreign national, or the fight was ensued by that. He said that they were in a fight, and in the fight his son got stabbed, and then it just happened to be that he was stabbed by a foreign national, and not that to say that this was perhaps xenophobically motivated, or they were fighting for racial issues, but that a fight ensued between the 2 of them, which led to his son being stabbed, and then in retaliation, the colours then come after the foreign nationals.
Okay. What else do we know? What about the others? You know, the 4 people the 10 people who've been hospitalized in terms of their condition?
All that we know so far is that they've been hospitalized. The police have said that they really are trying to keep a close watch on those in the hospital. They're giving specialized care. But in terms of their current condition, we're not too sure how they're holding up. But we know that there are 10 in hospital. But obviously, to understand, it's quite a sensitive issue because it has got racial implications to it. So the police are trying to tread lightly. Also trying to tread lightly because foreign nationals now, as I speak to you, are actually sleeping at the local police station, are very scared to go back into Valencia township, fearing for their lives. So the municipality and the police have to tread so lightly, not to try and insinuate more violence, but try being present stability. And that's what they're trying to do currently through conversations and public meetings, to try to see what is the core of this uproar, and what then becomes a way forward. Because ultimately, the foreign nationals can't sleep at a police station; they sleep there at night. And I'm talking about 200 people camped outside a police station, all saying one thing: they fear to go back home because they could be targeted again.
Yeah, I mean, how regular is it? Well, is this a regular, normal occurrence, or is this very, very isolated?
Absolutely isolated. We talked to a lot of the locals from Valencia, and they were saying it's the first time that this has ever happened. That's why they're so shocked that it actually happened, and happened so loosely. Because to see people run down the street being chased with knives and being chased with bricks is something that's never happened in the township at all. If anything, it seemed like that everyone, whatever race you are in, because there's a mixed race. There's not just colours and Zimbabweans. There's also Xhosa speaking people there as well. So it looked like they all had been living in harmony together for a long time, and that's why this incident came as such a shock, because they've been living together for so long in such harmony and coexisted so well. So to see this happen between a coloured and a foreign national who have never before had such uproar has really come as a shock, and also created a lot of fear in the community.
What about, in terms of decision makers? I mean, clearly you mentioned the word fear. What is the overall mood, and what about the key leaders? You know, whether it's a local council, local area representative, anybody, the police as well, who's doing what at this point in time?
When we spoke to the police, they said that in their statement that the arrest of the suspects is definitely imminent, that they are on their tracks to find out exactly where the suspects are and bring them to book. So the police have left it at that. We also spoke to the speaker, Mr. Siseko Dondoni, who is from the Sundays River municipality, and he said that this afternoon at 5, they're going to hold a public meeting between the various leaders of the community, representing all the different races within the community, to try and find out exactly what is going wrong in the community. Before we talked to him, though, at about 1 o'clock, they did have a meeting with the stakeholders, the key stakeholders from that township, and he said that various other concerns were raised in terms of service delivery and no proper clinics, the housing system dilapidated, service delivery really failing in that area. And he was saying perhaps these are some of the reasons that then cause such incidences when the municipality is not delivering on what has promised. But he did promise that at 5 o'clock they're going to have a larger public meeting where whatever concerns are happening in Valencia Township are going to be addressed. And ultimately, he said that the ultimate goal of this public meeting is to ensure, like I said, foreign nationals do go back home and feel safe to go back home, because they cannot sleep another day at the police station.
Absolutely. All tragic story. Thank you for bringing our attention to this and explaining it the way you have. Loranto Fekisa, the SABC News reporter in the
Thank you so much.
Cape. Much appreciate your time. So as we know it, 4 people dead, 10 people hospitalized in this outbreak of violence over the weekend in the Eastern Cape. We'll talk about another tragedy of sorts. Well, not of sorts, a tragedy. 6 members of one family dying in a shack fire after this.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
This week on BBC Primetime, watching TV could make you a winner. It's the BBC Primetime Watch and Win competition. Just tune into your BBC Primetime shows, answer a few simple questions on S3's TikTok account, and you could walk away with awesome prizes. From thrilling dramas to jaw-dropping reality shows, the more you watch, the more chances you have to win. Watch, answer, win. Only on BBC Primetime. Airs weeknights 9 to 11 p.m. on S3. Your couch just became the best seat in the game.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, we'll take your calls as soon as we can. Let's get to another issue. Real tragedy on a bad day talking about this, but that it is. A devastating shack fire during the early hours of this morning has claimed the lives of 6, not 1, 6 family members, right? 1 is enough, honestly, but 6 family members in the Kwatema Marikana Extension 3, with a 7-year-old girl as the sole survivor. What a tragedy. What's the backstory to all of this? William Mkladi is the Ekurhuleni EMS spokesperson. Appreciate your time, William. Thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me. And let me take the opportunity to greet all the listeners as well.
Well, thank you so much. And, you know, these are stories we don't really want to talk about, where people lose their lives. We're much used to political arguments, but this is just an absolute tragedy. Tell me more about it.
Oh, yes, an absolute tragedy that happened today. In the early hours of Monday, that is around 8 minutes past 3, we received a call of a shack that is well alight in Marikana Informal Settlement here in Kwatema, Ekurhuleni. Firefighters responded from Kwatema Fire Station to the incident and all the other necessary resources. On arrival, we found the shack well alight. Members of the public were also assisting, trying to battle the blaze with the bucket brigade system. And unfortunately, the inferno was too much. So the flames were already ranging, throughout all the shack. Then only to find that now, after we extinguished it, we were told there were people inside. We had to basically force ourselves through, break that down. And we managed to find 6 family members who lost their life in that fire. So, and apparently there were 7. The 7th one is a 7-year-old girl whom they managed to save through breaking the part of the shack. And she sustained critical injuries and was privately transported prior our arrival on scene to a medical facility here around Springs. So unfortunately, the other 6, the youngest being a toddler of about 1.5 years old, and the oldest being the father at the age of 47. So all of them perished in that inferno. Sure. And unfortunately, we don't know what the actual cause of the fire is.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about the. I was just going to ask you about the cause. You tell me about the child's bodies you were referring to. Go ahead.
So I was referring that now their child bodies were found under the rubble.
Yeah.
Because the roof at that time had already collapsed, and we had to basically search through, and we managed to get all 6 of them. So then it was confirmed that they were served by other relatives who came on site, and we did all the search from all under the rubble in that area, and yes, it was confirmed 6 as we speak.
So I take it that although there were charred bodies, they could be identified anyway, because we had the example of the fire in Mayfair a week ago, where these 4 toddlers, all burnt beyond recognition. It was really, really horrific story there too, right? So I mean, I hear what you said. You don't really know the cause at the moment, but are there any circumstances that could have been put into play that would have prevented the fire being as severe as it is? I mean, once it started, there were greater either preventatives or an earlier response. I'm looking at the conditions where people live, and how do we change that?
Let me also highlight the fact that before maybe going into that, one can realize that now at least Marikana informal settlement has gone under reblocking system. So it's not just shack on top of another or next to each other. So it's neatly blocked in such a way that now the buildings, the structures are far away from each other. So that also assisted in terms of fire spreading to other neighboring shacks. So that's why we managed to contain it quite much easier, because we were focusing only on that particular one, which was a 4-roomed shack. So in a result, we managed to contain it and extinguish it without any challenges. So we know now it is winter time. And we know temperatures has gone down drastically in such a way that during the evening is becoming freezing cold. So we don't know what might have caused it, but however, we're pleading with everyone to say, if ever they are sleeping with the heaters or any heat sources on, and it's not monitored by anybody, that might be a dangerous practice. We're pleading to everyone not to do that, together with the braziers, because around the area, though the investigation is going to be conducted, but around the area we found double plate stoves, 2 of them, and we found a coal stove, which was also inside the shack. We don't know which one might have caused the fire, if it was electricity or it was the coals that caused that, but that will be determined by the investigations.
Okay.
So we're pleading with everyone to say, if ever then they are using the heat sources to keep themselves warm, somebody responsible needs to be there every time. When you leave to go to sleep, when you leave the room going to work, when you leave the room or the home going to school or wherever. So please make sure that now all the appliances that you use are switched off in such a way that now the home will remain safe overnight and in your absence as well.
And I mean, the last thing that although, I mean, of course you're part of EMS services itself, but depending on where, a fire breaks out, it could be in a shack, as you said, it could be in a high-rise building, that the risks are hugely high. So to certainly depend on EMS to sort of rescue people, you're fighting against time, isn't it? And there are other environmental issues that effectively mitigate against you being able to actually survive, to help them out, isn't it? And ensure that they are out alive.
No, definitely. But what we do is we have basically have programs in place. As emergency services, we always say prevention is better than cure. So meaning that now we've got officers that are on daily basis going out there to communities to educate them on the safety practices of the usage of heat sources, meaning the cooking stoves, the lighting sources, that is the paraffin stoves, candles and everything, and even the generators for that matter. So because other people are still using generators during load shedding and to cook, to use them for the electricity application, domestic application, then the problem is when the generator is empty or has run out of fuel, people recharge it or refill it immediately and without using the proper channels, meaning equipment, meaning the funnel, and they don't let it cool off first. And usually there is a spillage. Many a times there is a spillage and the engine is still hot. Then one can imagine what is going to happen. The volatility of the petrol then ignites, and that's where the problem is. The same applies to the paraffin stoves. The same applies to the lamps, paraffin lamps. So we're pleading with the people to be cautious enough in terms of those equipments when they're getting used. And one other thing that is a common practice that we have found out as emergency services, the cooking stoves, paraffin stoves, people mix the paraffin with diesel. You know, they say it burns for much longer. And in that regard, then you find that the stove is not meant for diesel, for that mixture of fuel. So then that's where the problem comes, and now fire can start at any time.
Sure.
People are...
Yeah.
Yes. So maybe just the last one quickly. What we're pleading with everyone is, at least when you put such heating sources, cooking sources, the braziers inside the house, that is one thing that is coming, we know, and we're pleading with everyone that we need to be resilient as the community. Make sure that now, even if you use the brazier, into the house, make sure that now your windows are opened, or there is enough ventilation, so that now the carbon monoxide, hydrogen cyanide, is getting eliminated or out of the house, and fresh air circulate inside the house. So as now you don't get poisoned or intoxicated by that. And once you go to sleep, even that brazier, that braai, that the fireplace, whether is a informal settlement, a shack, or is a formal brick and mortar structure, please switch off the heat sources such that now you remain safe overnight.
Lots to consider from that, from the tragedy to the advice to every one of us. Appreciate your time on this day that really we shouldn't be talking, but we are anyway. William Nkladi, the Ekurhuleni EMS spokesperson, reflecting on a shack fire early this morning in KwaThema, Marikana, Extension 3. One child, a 7-year-old, surviving, 6 other family members living in a shack, all dying, burnt to death. Terrible story. It's 4:30. Here's the news headlines.
Thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon. I'm Kulufelo Tefo. In the headlines this hour, the Speaker of the Sundays River Valley Municipality in the Eastern Cape, Siseko Nodonti, says they have held a meeting with community leaders from Valencia Township in Addo after violence between locals and foreign nationals left 4 people dead. Relatives of the family of 6 people who perished in a shack fire at the Marikana informal settlement in KwaThema, Ekurhuleni, say they are devastated by what they describe as a lack of urgency from emergency services. Nkele Phahla, her partner Joseph Sibia, and their 4 children, including a 1-year-old, died in the blaze that broke out in the early hours of the morning. And the trial within a trial in the 255 million rand asbestos roofing case has been postponed to Tuesday next week. Greg Hose has the details of this and other stories at 5. Good afternoon.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards New Road. The M1 southbound in central Johannesburg has a crash at Crown Interchange, and the N12 westbound in Alberton, a crash before the R59 Reading Interchange. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck after Cliffdale exit. The M1 Higginson Highway westbound in Chatsworth queuing towards Westcliff Road, and the M19 west westbound in Westville is slow moving towards Dunkeld Road exit. In Cape Town, the N7 Jakes Haverhill Drive northbound in Epping has a crash at Viking Way. The N1 outbound in Woodstock has a crash at Lower Church Street, queuing traffic leaving the city. And Wetton Road eastbound is slow moving through Wetton. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
Right, Tumi, you've got a rugby story to talk about. Go for it.
Yeah, Sasha Feinberg Mgomezulu of the Stormers and the Bulls duo of Cameron Hanekom and Awilko Low were rewarded for the consistent good form during the season by grabbing 3 nominations for the South African United Rugby Championship Player of the Season award. Voting closed on Friday with the coaching teams of the Springboks and 4 South African franchises, as well as members of the media casting their votes for players from the 4 SAURC teams. A total of 17 players from all 4 SA franchises received votes, with Feinberg, Mgomezulu, Hanekom and Low, all 3 of whom attended the Boks alignment camp in Cape Town last week, garnering the most support. In football, South African under-17 national team men's coach Vela Khumalo says that coming out of the group at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup is a realistic target. This was following the draw last night. Amajimbos were drawn alongside Qatar, Italy and Bolivia. The tournament is set to be held from the 3rd until the 27th of November, and it features 48 teams.
I think in this case, the fact that we're in the World Cup is a new chapter altogether. Now we need to get over that. We are at the World Cup. We worked for this World Cup, and it cannot just be in the World Cup. I think the next target it will be, we want to go to the group stage. We want to remember here it's the World Cup. Iron, sharpen and iron. So we really want to come out of the group stage and perhaps go for the knockouts and see how far can we go.
Well, thousands have lined the streets to celebrate Liverpool's 20th Top Flight League title in an open top bus parade. The 16-kilometre procession through the city is underway and is expected to last more than 2 hours. Also underway is the Crystal Palace parade, or the FA Cup victory parade. Also seeing a lot of fans out there just celebrating with the teams. In the meantime, Aston Villa have complained to referees Body Professional Game Match Officials Limited after a big mistake by official Thomas Bramall contributed to them losing 2-0 at Manchester United and also missing out on the Champions League, with the match goalless and Villa down to 10 men after goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez was correctly sent off. The visitors thought that Morgan Rogers had given them the lead, but Rogers snatched the ball away from United goalkeeper Altay Bayando as he attempted to gather and slot home. However, Bramall blew for a foul. And I don't know, Ashraf, if you watched that Man United match yesterday.
Of course I watched
with
it.
Regards to
I have to watch my underachieving useless team, but yes, I did.
With regards to this foul, what are your thoughts? Because when I watched it looked like it was a goal.
My thoughts, absolute joke. That it should have been a goal, and the implications is not 1 point. It's Champions League football. It's huge.
Officiating
and
in the
they've got
spotlight.
VAR to assist, and they don't want
Right?
to use it. Like, no, that's what they're complaining about. Absolute joke.
It's very heartbreaking, especially as a coach, knowing that you just needed that one goal or that 1 point or those points to play in the Champions League or even to like win a league.
Yeah, but you got the benefit of VAR to assist you, and you still don't utilize it properly. Like, it's crazy. So in this case, it's United playing Aston Villa, but the real villain is the referee. But yeah.
Yeah, literally. Formula One drivers have criticized the new rules trialed at the Monaco Grand Prix, with Carlos Sainz saying that the changes backfired. Now, to improve racing in Monaco's narrow streets, the FIA introduced a rule forcing drivers to use 3 different tyre sets, meaning at least 2 pit stops were required. And despite the rule change, overtaking remained very difficult. On that note, it's a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
Okay, perfect.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Planet Earth, third planet from the sun. A cool place within the solar system where you can pause and take a deep breath without your lungs exploding. Home to an amazing array of wildlife and amazing landscapes that will leave you breathless either through wonder or fear. For humans, it's a place they call home, the only one that they have now. Team Surai follows a dedicated group of individuals dedicated to protecting the planet. Their mission, to encourage viewers to take concrete steps to protect the Earth. Catch Team Surai Thursdays at 6 p.m. S3, open up.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
So the weekend's over. It's back to the week. The business week, that is. So we have with us Makwe Masilelo, the Chief Investment Officer at Makwe Fund Managers. Makwe, good to connect with you. You've got news locally and globally, but let's start with Barlow World first.
Yes, afternoon, Ashraf, to you and to the listeners. The revenue was down 5.8%, impacted negatively by a significant reduction in the VT revenue. Remember, VT is based in Russia and has been the subject of sanctions and lower activity levels. And their overall financial performance as EBITDA fell, that is down 0.1%. But excluding VT, then there's a 3% increase, and profit and earnings per share down 20.5%, with the dividend per share down 42%. But Ashraf, despite the prevailing market turbulences, primary commodity trade routes remain largely unaffected, and that is due to the exclusion of PGM, coal, gold, manganese, and chrome from tariff implications. So they're looking okay going forward. And Ashraf, trade and tariff headlines, along with ongoing fiscal concerns, are going to be the main wildcard for the risk sentiment. And if global growth expectations are going to suffer a renewed setback, then that's not good news for pro-cyclical and pro-growth assets. But other market participants think that tariffs are a revenue generation tactic that will help offset the planned deep tax reductions in the US. And yesterday, Trump said he will postpone his recently proposed 50% tariff on the European Union to July, offering some relief over his tariff plans. But unfortunately, it reinforces his pattern of leaving markets guessing by making trade threats before backtracking. And trade tariffs backtracking attempted to ease demand concerns, but reports that OPEC Plus could unwind the rest of its 2.2 million barrels per day production cut by end of October weighed on oil prices. Brent crude is down 0.3% at $64 a barrel, and the very same backtracking impacted safe haven demand. Even a weaker dollar couldn't help the yellow metal, which is down 0.5% at 3,339, and platinum is down 0.1% at 1,083. Markets continue to dance to Trump's tune. US markets are closed today for a holiday. Europe and ourselves are in the green with the JSE up 0.4%. And we've been lifted by our financials, and the rand is down 0.1% against the dollar at 17.88, 24.23 against the pound, and 20.33 against the euro.
Thanks for that, Makwe. We'll connect again tomorrow. Absolutely. Right, we're going to get to your calls just now. Not now, just now. But before that, we referenced Sophie Mokwena's chat with Thabo Mbeki. We'll pick up on that after this.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, so if you may remember early on we had a chat with Sophie Mokoena. Listen to that podcast so you can pick up some of the thoughts that she shared regarding Thabo Mbeki's thoughts around Africa and Washington and Kill the Boer and all that sort of thing. But in the meantime, what we thought, let's play parts of that conversation, two significant clips. In fact, of course, one of them refers to the two biggest issues, Washington and Kill the Boer, right? So first things first, let's talk about that. Thabo Mbeki talking about and giving his reflections on that visit of the incumbent president, Cyril Ramaphosa, to Donald Trump's White House.
I think looking at the U.S., we must always be conscious of the fact that behind President Trump or any other president, they are the American people. And I think as South Africa, we would not want a relationship between ourselves and the people of the United States, a relationship that is hostile. I think we wouldn't. It's not in our interest, it's even the history of both countries militates against that. So we've got to do everything to make sure that that link between us, South African people, and people of the United States is not disturbed by wrong things. The matter about the engagement of the US government clearly is part of that. And I think we should not give up making sure that South Africa's positions are properly represented, that where there is a misconception by the United States government, President Trump and so on, about what South Africa is and what South Africa is doing, we correct that.
Do not make another debt repayment and
Okay, let's just see if we can just reconnect with that conversation, which we'll do in a moment. By the way, of course, if you're listening in for the very first time, I want to know that you're listening in, only because I can give you a shout out, and especially if you're calling in too, right? So how do you do that? Call in to 086 000 2032, and then the WhatsApp, it's 0614 104 107. You can also tweet us using the hashtag The National Pulse, and then tag SFM Radio and tag me, Ashraf Garda. Back to Thabo and Becky.
To battle for a particular relationship with the people of the United States, even against wrong positions that might be taken by their government. I think it's vital, and I really think, Sophie, you know very well that during our struggle against apartheid, we had extensive relations with the American population. To the point, for instance, where a Republican president, very popular Republican president, like President Reagan, who vetoed an anti-apartheid act, it's other Republicans in the US Congress who led the campaign to override that veto, which they did. So it tells you, that's an example, that the American people, they were very much at variance. The Republican Party was very much at variance with the Republican president. And they went ahead on a coalition on the South African issue. I think we mustn't lose that relationship with the American people, who I'm quite certain entertained the same position that they had during that struggle in favor of the victory against apartheid. They would stand in that position now in the favor of the victory against poverty and all of that. And an engagement with the U.S. administration, frank, open, must help to advance that. So you are right. I mean, what happened at the White House with all of those videos and all that and pictures, and it's puzzling to me that you got a president who believes just absolute lies, but he believes in them. They look at these crosses, white crosses, and things like that. But we have a task to make sure that we get the people of the United States on our side.
Interesting. He talked about the lies of the president, but then that final point, just for the moment, we need to get the president, rather, we need to get the people of the USA on our side. We'll get more on Thabo Mbeki in conversation with Sophie Mokoena right after this.
Ashraf Garda is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
Marawai, why did you think you could change your tire when you've never even changed a light bulb successfully? Marawai, why not switch to Santam and get 24/7 roadside assistance to get you moving again? Choose the insurer with cover options that suit your needs. Call 0860 444 444 or SMS cover to 36101. Santam. This is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer and controlling company for its group companies.
Your nights just got a turbo boost. Buckle up, because at 10 p.m. it's all thrill, mystery and pure entertainment. Mondays to Wednesdays, we are back on the track with Top Gear Season 14, where speed meets insanity and the world's wildest cars get pushed to their limits. On Thursdays, we uncover the truth in Imposter, Back from the Dead. Season 1 kicks off with chilling twists in a tale of deception, survival, and secrets long buried. Fridays, we take a deep dive into the unknown with Secrets of the Bermuda, exploring the myths, the disappearances, and the terrifying truth behind the world's most infamous triangle. 3 explosive shows, 1 unforgettable hour. It all starts at 10 p.m. only on S3. Don't miss it!
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Okay, let's get back to that chat. Sophie Mokoena in conversation with South Africa's former President Thabo Mbeki, and he had more to say.
It's unchanged. I mean, that thing is a chant. It's a chant. It was a chant during these days of struggle. And chants of that kind in our tradition, in the African tradition, you don't take it literally. At the TRC, to illustrate the point, I sang the song Ngeke Ngiye KwaZulu Kwafela Umama. It's a chant. It's a you sing. It's a Ngeke Ngiye Mina KwaZulu. It don't mean that. It don't mean I'll never go to Zululand because my mother died there. It's a chant. It's when you say kill the farmer, kill the boy, whoever. The ANC policy was forever against the killing of civilians. You chant, kill the boy, kill the farmer. There's no MK soldier who's going to go and kill a farmer. A boy, kill a farmer. No. It's a chant to motivate people. It was never taken literally. One of the commissioners there, I forget his name now, Afrikaner, he said, now I understand. And he then did a similar chant in Afrikaans. You'd find it in the Tiasra. He did the chant in Afrikaans, he says, and you can't take what it says literally. It's the same thing about kill the farmer, kill the poor. It's not, even during the course of the struggle, it was not literal. There were no instructions to an MK soldier to go and kill any poor or farmer, just because they're farmers or boers. In the context of war, yeah, soldiers, sure. So it's an exaggeration to take this thing now, as it's an instruction actually to go and kill. And people who are exaggerating know they are exaggerating.
Okay, that's Thabo Mbeki in conversation with Sophie Mokoena. Right. So 2 key points, his position regarding the USA and saying something like we need to maintain that relationship. We need to maintain that relationship, whatever it takes. But then also spoke about the lies of Trump and genocide and saying we need to win the people over. I'm paraphrasing. As far as kill the boer, kill the farmer, he said what many people else have said. We've always sung it. It was huge in symbolism, but it was never the intention. It certainly has never been the ANC policy. Interesting indeed. Coming from Thabo Mbeki. I'm saying that because different people interpret differently depending on who's saying it, isn't it? Right. What matters now is what are you saying? I'll get to you on the Pulse in a moment.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, we've got some WhatsApp content. We've got some calls as well. Let's get to the calls. Mike in Newlands, go for it. Hi, Mike.
Yeah, hello, Ashraf. Thanks very much. I just quickly want to comment, if I may, before I talk about the interview with Barbie. Somebody mentioned last week that they said on your show that I seem to be a bit heartless because I was opposed to the fact that we've taken Israel to court. And I just wanted to point out that, I don't think that I'm heartless. I care for all children in the world. My point was, and I think the caller missed it out, was the fact that I'm more concerned about the children in our own home. It was casually announced by our Minister of Death, Dr. Oren Betsiledi, the other day in Parliament, that 155 children in our country under the age of 5 had died in South Africa public health facilities with moderate or severe acute malnutrition as an underlying condition. Now, I somehow can't help feeling that we're spending all this money taking, Israel to court when our own children are dying. We've got this 47%, I stand corrected there, Ashraf, on stunted growth. I think it's the highest in the world. If it wasn't for AfriForum, we would have sent 50 million rand to Cubans' so-called starving children. And
okay,
just
got
also
that.
on that subject,
So,
Ashraf, just quickly on that subject, no, I just want to make my other point here, just quickly if I may, and that is that, we talk about Israel, I hear you talking about Israel, but it's not complicated. If Israel stops, if Israel gets the hostages back today, the bombing will stop today. That's all. It's that simple. I don't know why people keep blaming Israel. Israel simply wants their hostages back, and I can't understand why that's such a bad thing and why everybody gets upset. Release the hostages and the war ends. But clearly, Hamas doesn't want to do that. And unfortunately, through the fact that Hamas won't release the hostages, innocent Palestinians are dying.
Okay, couple of thoughts just about the children. I mean, I can't remember the exact details of that caller from last week, but I get your point about saying, yes, you have empathy for people dying around the world, but you obviously have empathy for people in your own country. So I get that, right? On the issue of the ceasefire, or rather the releasing the hostages, may I suggest that you and I both read extensively, because there are so many contradictions to who's giving that ceasefire, who's releasing the hostages and who's not doing so. You cannot believe what's going on in that place. And your point, which is interesting, about saying if you release the hostages, everything will be fine. That's the other problem, Mike. And I mean, seriously, because it's so complicated. Actually go back to the cause of the problem and everything will be fine. Can you see how complicated it is? But now let's move on, because I don't have time to talk about that anymore, because we both made the point. Let me give you a minute to talk about Vavi. Go for it.
Yeah, just Vavi. I mean, look, the gentleman really makes me laugh. We have the highest corruption rate in the country. Every single SOE that the ANC run is bankrupt. And this gentleman honestly suggests that he wants to see nationalization and socialization under I would assume under this current government, where our current president is currently fighting a court case for what's stealing, but allegedly stealing $70,000 or $1 million or whatever it is, sticking in his case. I honestly don't know why, Ashraf, we entertain people like Zwelinzisi Vavi, but I also would urge you, in future, just to say to the guy, look, okay, good point, this is what you want to do, but how would you fix the fact that we have the most corrupt government, or one of the most corrupt governments in the world, before he suggests that we actually give the country to the said government? But I mean,
he's been critical on government anyway, and listen, we have to speak to different voices, and some may say, how do we entertain Vavi? Like you said, some may say, how do we entertain Mike and Newlands? I hope you get my point, Mike. Thanks for your call. Thanks for connecting as always. Right, Vuyezwa in Parktown. Hi.
Yes, Ashraf, thanks for taking my call. I have questions and a remark altogether. Yeah, that Malachi, Mr. Malachi has proposed this. Yeah. Is the deal already done, or are they still going to be? Why is he getting to Parliament on Tuesday to stand before the communication committee?
Well, clearly it's not done. I mean, that's the answer. It's not done, and he's got to now speak to the portfolio committee, which actually heads the ministry itself.
And all what I was saying, Ashraf, is that look here. It is wrong, very wrong for people that are interested in power to go and make deals without communicating with us. We lost families here. We lost parents at tender age. We lost, we sacrificed, our parents sacrificed for this independence. So people can't come here and do as they wish without consulting us. Right now we are already suffering. Who tells the white world or white supremacy that they are gods? That they have to control power.
I mean, I hear you. Look, let's let this thing play it out, right? I mean, the second part of it, and this is a completely different part, it's not just about Elon Musk's Starlink, but others as well, that maybe we need to have a technical conversation with a tech expert to say, it's possible those deals are absolute game changers that may benefit the country anyway. Now, that's another conversation. We can't just form opinions, not just you, I'm talking about me as well, all of us, without knowing the full story behind the story. But it's certainly no done deal, just for now for you as well. Thanks for that. Right, Klabirwa in Sekhukhune, go for it.
No, thank you, Esther, for taking my call.
Thank you.
Just a comment. Mike is an unrepentant racist who sees white person as someone who's always right. He's been calling this platform for many years, in the morning and even in the afternoon. And he continues to undermine black people. And will continue to name and shame him. But he is an unrepentant racist who sees black person as a junior to him. And he continues to do that. But coming to the issue, I agree with the last speaker. But the Constitution, the issue with other people is that they undermine the Constitution, or they don't use the Constitution when it suits them. The Constitution says 30%, and the government has been clear on that one. So now, people are saying we should have a conversation. What conversation are we going to have? The conversation should be that how are we going to change the Constitution? But that it hasn't. The Constitution says 30%, and it should remain like that and be protected like that. And even in our argument, we should state that. But that's what the Constitution says. So why should be an Elon Musk be a...
No, but it's not Elon Musk. I mean, we don't know the whole story, but this has come from somebody who's in government. When somebody in government, so it's not you and I also talks about a change that will allow, Starlink was not mentioned by name, that will allow different companies, different organizations that will be able to allow to deliver technological advancement that will, let's call it hashtag Wi-Fi, to broader sections of the community. That's one aspect. Now, it's come from government.
But that is not the reason. The reason is that we have an issue with Starlink. There have been companies in South Africa that are coming and are going, and they have been okay with the 30% issue. It's now, which is part of the conversation, that the Afrikaner or racists that are saying that 30% is not good. Is what we're talking about. Chinese is there, with better satellite and so on. We can go there.
Okay, but let's see what happens. I mean, all I'm saying, let's leave it at that because I want to get to some of the other callers as well. I mean, we don't know enough of the actual detail, accepting it's come from a minister in government who happens to be from a party that is opposite to the party with the most votes in the last election, and that other party's chairperson of the portfolio committee has summoned that minister to come and explain himself, and that'll all happen tomorrow. Can you see how complicated the world is that we live in, right?
Hello, Ashraf, Romeo here from Potchefstroom. Look, I maintain again, there is a coordinated move by the Democratic Alliance, Freedom Front Plus, AfriForum, and Solidarity in making sure that they come against the radical policies in this country, including the BEE. So now South Africans must stay together in making sure that we defend those policies, because this coordinated move, it will throw us under the bus.
So interesting is Zwelinzima Vavi, in fact, also saying that the current BEE regulations, as we know it, is also incorrect. He does not support it. So he'd call for a change on that too. I'm not saying what he's proposing is right. Can you see? Not everybody is in agreement with what we currently have, isn't it?
Afternoon, South Africa. I'm so perturbed, Ashraf, by the so-called leaders of the free world who only doesn't tolerate but enable that people in densely populated areas must be bombed and burned to death. And they still call themselves leaders of the so-called free world. Are they ashamed of themselves? I'm ashamed of us who tolerate such nonsense to go on. Major from Batem.
There's lots of duplicity. I think that we know, isn't it? And you may talk about where the duplicity comes from. Let's get we're going to play some sound from Julius Malema, by the way, on his explanation of Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer in a moment. Let's get the news. It's 5 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. Meeting over Sunday's river unrest, and Defence Force denies reports of weapon handovers. Good day to you. The Speaker of the Sunday's River Valley Municipality in the Eastern Cape, Siseko Ndonti, says they've held a meeting with community leaders to try and find ways to bring stability and peace. This after violence between locals and foreign nationals in the area resulted in the death of 4 people, with another 10 admitted to the hospital. Nodonti says they're against xenophobia and will ensure that foreign nationals currently taking cover at the Addo police station can return home.
We are coming from the meeting now with the stakeholders, affected stakeholders, in a form of foreign committees that they formed and established, and the other social leaders. We decided that through the office of the World Councillor, there's a need for an urgent public meeting so that we may discuss this further, because we have found out that the representation of the residents mentioned that there's a lack of service delivery, which may lead also to this action.
Relatives of a family of 6 who perished in a shack fire at the Marikana informal settlement in KwaThema, east of Johannesburg, say they're devastated by what they describe as a lack of urgency from emergency services. Nkela Patla, her partner, and their 4 children, including a 1-year-old, died in the blaze. A 7-year-old girl, the sole survivor, is currently in ICU and hospital with burn injuries. Family member Frankie Patla says community members had to physically go to the fire station after waiting for over an hour without a response from the fire department.
Service delivery has to be the number one issue when it comes to issues like this, because we waited for the fire department for over an hour. So unfortunately, that's how the state of our country is in right now.
The trial within a trial and the 255 million rand asbestos roofing case has been postponed to Tuesday next week. The presiding judge is expected to deliver judgment on that day regarding the extradition matter. The legal representative for Ace Magashule's former PA, Muradi Chalota, has argued in the Free State High Court in Bloemfontein that the state failed to prove the legality and lawfulness of Chalota's extradition to South Africa. The daughter of the late ANC leader, Chief Albert Luthuli, has told the Pietermaritzburg High Court in KwaZulu-Natal that she believes that geopolitical events like receiving the Nobel Peace Prize contributed to her father's death. Albertina Luthuli, a medical doctor, is testifying in the reopened inquest into her father's death. This comes after the 1967 inquest found that Luthuli died after being hit by a train as he was walking along a railway line. Evidence leader, Advocate Anna Chwene, read Dr. Luthuli's statement in court, narrating what she believed made her father look like an enemy to the apartheid state.
We are convinced as a family that when he was holding on the rail, an instrument was used by someone in the train to hit him on the back of the head. This instrument, which was used to hit him at the back of the head, was heavy enough to crack his skull, and as he struggled to survive the hit, he held more on the rail and would have twisted his hands and wrist and perhaps even the lower arms.
The SA National Defence Force dismissed a news report saying Defence Force members withdrawing from the DRC are to surrender their weapons while transiting through Rwanda. It says the article must be condemned in the strongest possible terms as nothing but hearsay. Titaba Sotetsi reports.
In a statement, the SANDF says that this article is not factual and appears to be aimed at creating panic and discrediting all involved. It also says that this reporting compromises the safety of the troops. And the SANDF says that the author of this story did not verify the facts with the authorities. SANDF troops are withdrawing from the DRC after an agreement was reached by SADC and the East African Community to allow peace processes to resume.
The top story, the Speaker of the Sundays River Valley Municipality in the Eastern Cape said they've held a meeting with community leaders to try and find ways to bring stability and peace. The Speaker says this comes after violence between locals and foreign nationals. That's SAFM News, I'm Greg Hus.
In sports this hour, Arensa calls for BMT as Supersport fight for survival, and nominees revealed for SAURC Player of the Season, while Athletics South Africa chief hails athletes' performance in Rabat. More details are at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Germiston is queuing towards Elands Interchange. The R24 westbound in Edenvale queuing towards the N12 highway merge, and the N14 northbound in Pretoria has a truck crash reported on the off-ramp to Eophius Road. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck before the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. The N3 westbound has a stationary truck after Cliffdale exit, and the M1 Higginson Highway westbound in Chatsworth queuing towards Westcliff exit. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound has a stationary truck on the ramp to the R300 southbound carriageway. Coburg Road outbound in Tableview is slow moving towards Tanzanite Boulevard, and Leesburg Parkway outbound in Observatory slow moving towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Ultimate Value is opening an account with 34 benefits while getting her a treat. Ultimate Success is getting her the ballet shoes that you promised. With the 2,000 Rand balance booster, Ultimate Goals is living life on your own terms with a credit card with 0 monthly fees. Absa Ultimate Banking is about having it all in one account for 98 Rand per month. Apply online now. Your story matters. Absa, subject to affordability and scoring. T's and C's apply. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider.
Your nights just got a turbo boost. Buckle up because at 10 p.m. it's all thrill, mystery and pure entertainment. Mondays to Wednesdays, we are back on the track with Top Gear Season 14, where speed meets insanity and the world's wildest cars get pushed to their limits. On Thursdays, we uncover the truth in Imposter, Back from the Dead. Season 1 kicks off with chilling twists in a tale of deception, survival, and secrets long buried. Fridays, we take a deep dive into the unknown with Secrets of the Bermuda, exploring the myths, the disappearances, and the terrifying truth behind the world's most infamous triangle. 3 explosive shows, 1 unforgettable hour. It all starts at 10 p.m. only on S3. Don't miss it!
This May, SAFM celebrates Africa Month with you as we honor the legacy of the Organization of African Unity. We bring you rich conversations and the vibrant sounds of Africa. Music that moves the soul. This is SAFM. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So we do know that the employment rate is low and the unemployment rate is high. And that conversation is ongoing and nothing seems to change. And that's just bad news indeed, right? So many people trying whatever they have to do. We'll chat later on to Dr. Nick Eberl, the founder of the Future Leader Forum, because they had this job summit a few days ago to tackle youth unemployment. And let's hope they've got some answers and practical answers at that. In the meantime, excuse me as I clear my throat, there's further thoughts on the conversation regarding Thabo Mbeki and Julius Malema, the issues of kill the Boer and kill the farmer. So Malema himself, right, he, of course, addressed community members in Koppies in the Free State yesterday ahead of the by-elections happening in the area later this week. Now, the EFF president took time to address what happened in the US last week, so giving his opinion. In reference to Donald Trump, and after playing a montage of the EFF leader singing Kill the Boer, then asked President Ramaphosa why Malema was not arrested. Remember, this all happened at the White House. So Malema himself, he did tweet the other day about, he can't believe other people they've made him center to everything and he will never listen to them no matter what, right? But he responded a bit further at this rally. And this is among the things, we picked out some clips. He spoke to the crowd about himself and Donald Trump. And, what happens when they shape up.
Comrades, we must defend our country against imperialism. The only organization that is hated by imperialists is the EFF. I will never be intimidated by America. I will never be intimidated by Donald Trump. They were speaking about me in that meeting at White House. If they were not gossiping about me, they should have called me into that meeting. I would have answered everything that Donald Trump wanted from us. Banchaba ba sebakanna batho ba baholo ka dikhoneng ba tya transport ba ya kwa America ba yo bua ka nna slege. If they are not scared of me, call me into that meeting. That nonsense that Trump did in America, he will never do that nonsense in my presence, because I will confront him here and there with the facts. Ramaphosa could not present the facts in front of Donald Trump. You've got a coward president. He left here, Ariana, he won't be bullied. When he arrived there, he was shaking. Atatazela, Achaba Donald Trump, another president scared of another president. Donald Trump said to him, when you say farmers, you mean white people. He kept quiet. Farmers do not mean white people. They are black farmers. They are white farmers. Ramaphosa is a farmer himself. He should have said to Donald Trump, no, farmers are not white. I'm a farmer myself. I am not white. Why didn't he present that simple fact before Donald Trump? Why didn't he say, there are so many people killed in South Africa, and majority of them are blacks. There is no white genocide in South Africa. Bammonchatsila with crosses. He opens his eyes in shock. I know South Africa with my eyes closed. He's unable to tell Donald Trump that is not a picture of South Africa. This picture does not belong to us. We don't have mass graves of white people in South Africa. Mula was there. Kumbuzo was even worse.
That is Julius Malema. That's not all he said. Then, very specifically, he then referenced, in speaking to the media, he referenced the issue of Ramaphosa, in this case what he termed failing to defend Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer, when Ramaphosa met Trump at the White House.
Judgment. Well, I was not shocked necessarily. I knew that issue is going to arise, but that they will play videos. I was not sure. I didn't know all of that, but I knew that matter was going to arise, and I was very interested to hear how the president is going to defend the struggle song that the ANC has defended throughout the history of that song. He couldn't defend the song as a heritage. He couldn't defend the song as a struggle song. He couldn't explain the song that it doesn't in any means necessarily refer to literal killing of white people. It was used in reference to a white supremacist system of oppression in South Africa. He couldn't do that because he himself never believed in the struggle, and that was justified when he couldn't defend the struggle right at the White House. So we know for a fact that he threw the Constitutional Court under the bus. He threw the Constitution under the bus. He was not loyal to his oath of office to defend the Constitution of South Africa, where he should have pronounced that the highest court has ruled on the matter. I can't arrest him. Even if I wanted to, I have no powers. There is a rule of law in South Africa that needs to be followed. But they all understood the language, that the language is not arrest, it's killing. Yep. Why are you not killing him? Because he's going to kill white people. That's what he wanted to project, but he was not courageous enough. You have the whole former deputy president of the Youth League who sang this song, sitting there, not saying anything. The whole minister of public relations, Kumbuzo Chabeni, I was with her in the Youth League. She was the youngest in Peter Mukaba's NEC of the ANC Youth League. She knows the history of this song. She's sitting there very scared. All of them shaking. The president himself shaking. Only 4 white Afrikaner males were confident. It was Rupert, the 2 golfers, and Steenhuisen. Why do you give Steenhuisen to speak in such a meeting and not give a minister of international relations? That department has been juniorized and is being undermined as a result. And that's what I asked him in Parliament, that have you juniorized this ministry? Are you playing with this important ministry? And we saw agriculture, a minister being promoted against the Minister of International Relations. Reason being the color of his skin.
So how convincing is Julius Malema? Seriously, I mean, he's raised some really important points. A, about the symbolism around kill the boer, kill the farmer. B, about some of the strategic thinking of Ramaphosa at the White House, not defending the position itself on the slogan, on this cry that dates back a long, long time, and the ANC is in fact supported. If you're not sure about that, Thabo Mbeki in that conversation with Sophie Mokoena just yesterday said the same thing, that, hey, this is not literal, it never was. How convincing was he about that? Then about the issue about some of the dynamics and the optics that were surfaced, and the last point about who spoke and who didn't speak at the White House. Does he have a point? I'd love to get your thoughts on that, right? Now, to call in, as always, it's 086 000 2032, and then WhatsApp 0614 104 107. And some people are tweeting. You can do that. If you're tweeting, use that hashtag, The National Pulse. Let's get to some of the calls. We've got Katu on the line. Hi. In fact, we'll do it right after this.
Bigger office, more staff, a new location? Growth takes investment, and a business term loan from Standard Bank gives you the capital you need to expand on your terms. With competitive interest rates, fixed monthly repayments, and a dedicated support team, you can plan ahead with confidence. Keep your business growing with a Standard Bank business term loan. Visit standardbank.co.za/business loans to apply. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
WAFCON defending champions Banyana Banyana have a crucial meeting with the Zebras. Both nations are elevating their preparations for the highly anticipated Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. This is the international friendly. Experience the Southern African Derby, South Africa versus Botswana, this Wednesday 28 May at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, S3 and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the
game. The Morning Brief.
The dangers and how precarious the situation is for yourselves as aid workers, just your own perspective and sharing your own trepidation and sense of worry about your own personal safety.
Well, we can hear the bombings constantly, and we had one very close to the house we live in last week, so this was really quite shocking to all of us. But still, our Palestinian staff, they're extremely brave and they're coming to work every single day. So when we fear for our own safety, we are inspired by the Palestinian staff that we have, and we keep trying to do what we can for the people here.
Claire Menara from Doctors Without Borders, where she is emergency coordinator.
Tulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. You're listening to the National Pulse.
Well, as you heard that, find the podcast, get the podcast of all the big conversations we have, not just of this show, but across the board here on SAFM radio. Right, let's get to the issue of jobs. Goodness, man, whichever way you want to swing it, it's just wrong. Expanded definition, 46% unemployed. Others talk about a 33-odd%. Either way, once it goes above 10 or 15%, it's horrific. And this is way beyond that. So where do we fit in as a country, and who do we do, and what do we do around the issue of the future of jobs? So Dr. Nick E. Barrell has effectively coordinated this issue of the Future of Jobs Summit to tackle the issues of youth unemployment. He's the founder of the Future Leader Forum. Dr. Nick, as we always know you from the 2010 World Cup and beyond, much appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ashraf. And it's great to reconnect.
Absolutely. I tell you what, if we get this right, your issue of the job summit and turning unemployment into employed, you could name the job you want in this country, starting with the president. We'll all vote for you, right? Which gives you the responsibility. What happened at your summit a few days ago, Friday, I think it was, and we'll talk about the outcomes then.
So it was Thursday, Friday. It was a T20, G20 official event And that's really the great opportunity here, that we can expand our job opportunity efforts, job creation efforts across the G20. And I'm going to talk more about that, but basically what we're looking at is to co-create at least 2.4 million new jobs for the youth by 2030 in South Africa's top 10 industries.
Okay, so how do you co-create it?
So the formula is very simple. It was all about, the 2 days last week was all about bringing public and private leaders together. So we had a number of the big tech companies like SAP. We had the biggest employer in Africa in logistics, DP World. We had enabler of many of thousands of companies in terms of workplace management, Adcock. And then we had the presidency. We had Melvin Lubega, who's in charge of digital transformation for the country. We had the mayor of Johannesburg. We had the chair of chairs of Gauteng, the Gauteng provincial legislator. So this is really a formula to bring public and private leaders together and co-create new models, and not just new models, but what works best practice, like the BPO sector. This has already created 150,000 jobs for the youth.
So what are you doing in terms of us coming together of perhaps maybe just spend a few minutes, tell us who actually were part of this conversation. You made the point about G20 and G20, but who are physically present and what are you doing as a grouping that government, for example, on its own has been unable to do and other businesses have been unable to do all these years?
Look, it's not about being unable. There's many initiatives across the country. It's really bringing them together. And in a way, it's a 2010 Leadership Legacy project. Because as you remember, as you know, 2010 was all about co-creation, right? Everybody coming together in pursuit of a great vision, which was to host the best World Cup ever, which we did achieve. We did achieve the 92%, and it had massive impact on economic development. So the catalyst was really a survey that was done in 2023. Every year, PPS conducts a Student Confidence Index. And in 2023, 90% of university students declared that they intend to leave the country and work overseas because of lack of opportunity. So that's really what's at stake here. We need to create opportunity at scale for the youth who are not employed, who are not in training, and who are not in education, and that is almost 2/3 of our youth.
So to confirm, are we talking about unskilled youth versus skilled youth who are also unemployed?
No, across the board, graduates, skilled youth, unemployed youth, unskilled, across the board. 65% are not employed, or not in training, or not in education.
Okay, so tell me more about the practicalities then, because I mean, when you talk about these targets you've got for 2030, there must be a practical rollout plan in terms of the actual industries and then the support structures and where it comes from, so that people listening in will be able to say, hey, they're talking to me about me. I'm excited. So what's really at stake is to recreate models that are working already. So for example, the BPO sector, it used to be the call center sector. It's now evolved where multinational companies, many from the UK and the US and other parts of the world, are outsourcing their business process operations, be it human services, legal HR services, IT services, call center services, to South Africa. Now, South Africa is a leading country in the world for a number of reasons, because the Industry Association has created a model that is world-class. So what they've done, they created an enabling environment between business, government, and communities. They created a talent pool. So already 150,000 jobs since 2019, and they built a roadmap to create 500,000 jobs by 2030, and that's a very credible number. They applying impact sourcing,
So they're going to communities, they source from communities, they benefit communities, they leverage the world-class ICT structure of the country. They have a formula, and this formula is working. So what we're doing is to look how can we replicate what's working already.
Okay, well, that's interesting. That's the formula is working. So your point, maybe just to end with that, in terms of sectors, I mean, there's hundreds of different sectors, maybe 10 major sectors of employment or industry in the country, right? What is your advice then to, based upon what you know now, to people listening in, right? Because they're not going to speak to the big bosses over there. They need to get practical advice about how they can get themselves skilled. What is your advice about which sectors and the type of work they need to embrace, either in a permanent job as part of a gig economy, as you know, where you can do more than one thing at the same time, which appears to be the way we're going now, that these young unemployed people and even employed people need to embrace? So what's interesting, before I answer that, when India a few years ago hosted the G20, they created 1 million new jobs before, during and after. So that's a benchmark for now. So the top industries, obviously technology. I mean, already Google has pledged 300,000 jobs through data centers, the massive data centers, the AI factories they're building. That's 300,000. The outsourcing sector, as I said, 500,000. Tourism has massive potential for growth. Renewable energy has massive potential. Logistics, even construction. And we all know construction is bedeviled by crime, but once that is solved, there's massive opportunity. Financial services. Remember, South Africa is number 1 in fintech. So there are many opportunities, and because G20 is here, and we are now collaborating with the big 20 economies across the world, there's a lot of opportunity. Well, you're making us feel a lot more positive about ourselves and our country, but more importantly about the youth within our country. Let's therefore end with this, right? Just a thought. The issues of artificial intelligence and its capability. I mean, you mentioned Google. There's also issues of ChatGPT and Grok and what it can do, right? Do you see artificial intelligence as a diminisher of job prospects, or could it be even a greater enabler to the point that we've never thought possible?
I think artificial intelligence is a great enabler if we use it correctly. So if we use artificial intelligence correctly, we could end poverty in 20 years. We could guarantee food security. We could guarantee water security. We could solve crime once and for all. And once we've done that, there are so many other pursuits. And what is a job? A job is a means to an end. It's not just to keep you busy 8 hours a day. It's about enabling you to make a meaningful contribution to society, to connect, to grow, to feel significant. And there are many different ways. We mustn't look at the jobs of the past and the present. We must look at how can we come together as humanity and create a better future for all. And there's enough to do.
So when you say, and we'll end with this, when you say use artificial intelligence properly, as you said, the benefits are there, but we all battle with what does it mean? When you say use it properly, what does use it properly mean? Give me an example.
Properly to solve the big challenges of today, which is food security, right? Technology already can 10x food production. Water security. There's many new technologies to harness water from air and others. Crime. Security. We have the technology to not only detect but prevent many crimes. So let's do that.
Okay, that's the big challenge. Dr. Nick Ibarra, the founder of the Future Leader Forum, but in this case, you're putting together the job summit that took place in Johannesburg a few days ago. In fact, all linking up to G20 and the many collaborative efforts and opportunities that it all gives us. You should probably follow him and just maybe Google it for more information on that. There's lots that's come out of that. In fact, it may well just give you the type of hope that you and your family so desperately needs. Let's get to the news headlines. It's 5:30. Here's Greg Host.
Quick look at the headlines. The police captain accused of raping a female trainee is now being charged in a second sexual assault case. A pastor has been sentenced to 2 life terms of life imprisonment for the rape of a 12-year-old girl. And the Speaker of the Sundays River Valley Municipality in the Eastern Cape says they've held a meeting with community leaders to try and find ways to bring stability and peace to the area. A full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Mamelodi Sundowns will host Pyramids FC at Loftus Stadium at 3 p.m. on Saturday. Road closures around the stadium precinct will apply between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. The M1 southbound in Houghton Estate has queuing traffic reported towards Houghton Drive exit, and the N14 westbound in Krugersdorp, a crash before Hendrik Potgieter Road. In KZN, the M4 northbound queuing towards Umhlanga Rocks Drive, the M4 northbound is queuing towards Dubai Drive traffic circle, and the M7 eastbound, a truck crash before the N2 highway. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road exit, the R300 westbound is slow moving towards the M7 Jakes Havel Drive, and Veltervreden Road southbound queuing towards Morgenstair Road. With your traffic updates, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Doming Kapele.
Right, Chumi, let's talk sport. What do you want to pick up first?
Well, interim SuperSport United coach Andrea Renza says that it's time to call on players with big match temperament in their final league fixture on Thursday. Matsatsantsa play Golden Arrows in a replay match where only the second half will be played starting at 1-1. This is after the match on the 23rd of February had to be abandoned after floodlights failure with load shedding in effect. SuperSport are 15th on the Betway Premiership log, a spot that would see them contest the promotion relegation playoffs if the results don't go their way.
But I believe we can win it, and more so than technical and tactical ability going into that game. I think big match temperament. That's what it is. I'm looking for big heart, big match temperament, because for me right now at this stage of the season, when there's one half of a game to go, you need players who are going to step up with big match temperament, and we'll need to find who those players are in the next couple of days.
Meanwhile, SA Under-17 national team men's coach Vela Khumalo says coming out of the group at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup is a realistic target following the draw last night. Amajimbos are drawn alongside Qatar, Italy and Bolivia. The tournament is set to be held from the 3rd to the 27th of November, and it features 48 teams.
I think in this case, the fact that we're in the World Cup is a new chapter altogether. Now we need to get over that. We are at the World Cup. We worked for this World Cup, and it cannot just be in the World Cup. I think the next target it will be, we want to go to the group stage. We want to, remember here, it's the World Cup. Iron, sharpen and iron. So we really want to come out of the group stage and perhaps go for the knockouts and see how far can we go.
So it starts with 12 groups of 4 teams, with the top 2 advancing to the knockout phase, joined by 8 third best placed teams. From there, it becomes a knockout tournament from the last 32 to the final. In rugby, Sasha Feinberg and Ngome Zulu of the Stormers and Bulls duo of Cameron Hanekom and Wilco Lowe were rewarded for their consistent good form during the season by grabbing 3 nominations for the South African United Rugby Championship Player of the Season award. Voting closed on Friday with the coaching teams of the Springboks and the 4 South African franchises, as well as members of the media, casting their votes for players from the 4 SAURC teams. A total of 17 players from all 4 SA franchises received votes, with Feinberg, Ngome Zulu, Hanekom and Lowe, all 3 of whom attended the Box Alignment Camp in Cape Town last week, garnering the most support. In athletics, South Africa Athletes Commission Chairperson Hendrik Mkhanyezi says that the sport's future looks promising. This is after the strong showing by 10 South African athletes at the Diamond League meet in Rabat, Morocco last night. Mkhanyezi believes that the ASA is making the right strides ahead of the World Senior Championships in Japan later this year.
I think the overall performance of our athletes shows the continuity the athletes that are making on the world stage, and also put the federation on the upper level in compared to where we're coming from and what we are developing to achieve. Athletes are being exposed to such competitions so that they explore their talent. And as a federation, that's our responsibility that we've been doing, creating a conducive environment for the athletes to go and perform and showcase their talent. So we are very excited, and there's a bright future for athletics, and the athletes are very excited for the federation, what it's doing.
In Formula One drivers have criticized the new rules trialled at the Monaco Grand Prix, with Carlos Sainz says that the changes backfired. To improve racing in Monaco's narrow streets, the FIA introduced a rule forcing drivers to use 3 different tyres, meaning at least 2 pit stops were required. And despite the rule change, overtaking remained difficult and teams used controversial tactics, with Racing Bulls and Williams having one driver slow down the pack to help their teammate build a gap for pit stops. And then in cycling, pre-race favourite Primož Roglič could be withdrawn from the Giro d'Italia. This is after struggling to recover from injuries sustained in multiple crashes. Roglic's title bid suffered a major blow after a crash on Saturday, his third in a week, that left the 2023 winner struggling in the final climb during Sunday's stage 15. On that note, it is a wrap from my side.
Okay, listen, before you go, so Sundowns drew 1-1 in that home game.
Yeah.
Right? And when do they play that return game?
They play this coming week, yeah.
Okay, that's going to be in Cairo against
It's
Peru.
in Cairo, yeah. It's definitely in Cairo.
And so, I mean, as it stands, they're on the back foot. They haven't lost, but they haven't drawn at home, right?
Yeah. It's going to be an uphill battle for them. I hope it's not going to be the same one that I was watching on Saturday, because it seemed like Pyramids was saying that we are out here. Unfortunately, that last-minute equalizer didn't work for us, but I'm just hoping that they dominate the game come Cairo.
Well, they need to score goals. I mean, even if they don't dominate the game,
and
they must score 1 goal more than whatever Pyramids
scores.
That'll give them a victory.
Yes.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, we'll talk about that all week, I'm sure, about that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
In a land scorched by the sun and shaped by time, life refuses to surrender. From the silent stalk of the Arabian leopard to the resilient march of the sand gazelle, witness nature's fiercest survivals. Arabian Inferno, a journey into one of Earth's most extreme habitats, where every day is a battle for survival. This is the wild. This is Arabian Inferno. Sundays at 6 p.m. on S3. Open up.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana.
It's a complicated one, and one that I think that the South African legislative space has been battling with. How do you begin to bring in regulations, to bring in controls for how web works, which is something that is not in the control of any particular government? It's an open space, but you must still have some levels of controls and human rights violations.
We are very clear that disinformation and misinformation are not merely communication problems. They are deliberate violations of human rights. Because of course, when false information circulates, it undermines several rights. It undermines the right to equality, the right to dignity, the right to access to information.
Tsepo Matlingos is the commissioner at the South African Human Rights Commission.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Okay, of course, the SAFM Market Update is always hosted by Jimmy Moya. Jimmy, what's the big story? What's moving markets today, in fact?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. It's been a results-heavy day today, and I've been trying to catch up with all of the results. We've got conversations with the CEOs of Barloworld, Altron, and Pick n Pay. Pick n Pay gave us an update last week, a trading statement with a couple of corporate announcements there. So we're going to be speaking to Sean Summers around that and getting a sense of what's been happening there. But of course, as I said, also with Dominic Suella of Barloworld and Werner Kapp of Altron. We've also then got a conversation around Starlink. This has caused quite a bit of stir stir since last week and what we saw happening last week at the Oval Office, what we saw happening with President Trump, President Ramaphosa, as well as Elon Musk and Johan Rupert, amongst other individuals. So we're going to take a look at where we now stand with the latest gazette from the Communications Minister, Solly Malatsi, for things that could potentially affect Starlink and companies like Starlink. We're going to speak to the senior editor at Currency News around that and get a sense of what's happening there. And then we're going to wrap up the show with a personal finance segment. Interesting topic this time around. We're going to be taking a look at whether or not your birth order can impact your investment personality. Such studies and research suggest that certain placements in the birth order have certain risk tolerance levels. So, for example, your youngest siblings or the youngest in the family line might be more risk tolerant than other individuals that are older than them. So we're going to look at that and see what the data suggests, as well as how it can affect your investment decisions that you might be making there. But before we get to that, the markets have had a really good day, and this is largely due to a couple of reasons. I mean, if you've been keeping an eye on some of the developments that have happened, and we're going to be discussing these in our markets conversation. I've got Gary Boyson of Rand Swiss on that as well. But if I look at some of the market movements that have been happening today, the JSE having a really good day, despite the fact that resources were down on the day by about 1.3%. The overall index managed to still finish in the green. The international indices as well, they had a bit of an interesting day. If we look at Asian markets, the Hang Seng was the biggest loser, down 1.4%. The Nikkei was the biggest gainer, up 1%. The ASX in Sydney and the Shanghai Composite in mainland China were both flat, relatively flat in the case of Shanghai. If we look at European markets, two of them were in the green, with the DAX and the CAC 40 up more than 1% in each case. The FTSE in London, on the other hand, was closed today, so it hasn't traded today. There's a banking holiday in the UK. There's also a banking holiday in the US. So those markets, we're only going to see movements on the futures side of it, and we'll get market movements tomorrow in terms of the actual cash markets there. If we look at our own local markets, the all share up 0.2%, the top 40 up 0.2%. As I said, resources the big drag on the day, down 1.3%, but financials up 1.1% and industrials up 0.3%. If we look at the currency side of things, the Rand 17 Rand 86 against the US dollar. At some point in the early hours of this morning, this was around 17 Rand 80 cents. So slightly weaker there, but still very positive considering all of the events of last week. And we still have an interest rate decision that's coming up this week that we're going to look into as well. One British pound will cost you 24 Rand 23, 1 euro 20 Rand and 33 cents, 1 Australian dollar 11 Rand and 61 cents, 1 Bitcoin $109,950 a Bitcoin. In Rand terms, 1.97 million. So just below that 2 million Rand mark that we breached last week. If we look at commodities before we go, Brent crude still holding steady, $64.50 a barrel. Platinum and palladium around the $1,000 mark, but in the case of platinum, almost $1,100 at $1,090 a fine ounce. Palladium back at $998 or around $1,000 a fine ounce. Gold price $3,338 a fine ounce there. So we're going to be looking at these matters. As I said, I've got Gary Boyson on markets with me today to take a look at some of these movements. I also want to get his thoughts around what's happening later this week. We've got an OPEC meeting, we've got interest rates from South Africa, we've got PCE data from the US. There's a lot of data points that are coming up and a lot of events that are coming up this week. So we've got lots to dig into, but we will be digging into that at 6 o'clock. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Okay, perfect. And you enjoy your show 6 to 7, so it comes up in 15 minutes' time. But what comes up next is you. Are you on the pulse?
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
After school snacks, a bag of chips or maybe some biscuits, instant noodles for lunch. Ultra-processed products such as these may be high in sugar, salt, or saturated fat. Having too much of these products could lead to diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. Our health is in danger. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels now. Sign the petition on heala.org. HEALA.org.
The Copper Queens and the Zebras want to test each other's strength. This is not just an international friendly, they are gearing up for the Women's Africa Cup of Nations in Morocco. Witness the thrilling battle between Zambia and Botswana on Saturday 31 May at 3 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
We plan for vacations, retirement, and even tonight's dinner. But do we plan for our health? It's how we protect our family's future. So who are you staying healthy for? And how can you protect their future? Choose Dis-Chem Life, the life cover that helps you live a healthier, more rewarding life with health checks and extra rewards. Visit dischemlife.co.za now. Dis-Chem Life. Choose a better partner for life. Dis-Chem Life is an authorized FSP 50594, underwritten by Guard Risk Life, a licensed life insurer, FSP 76. T's and C's apply.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, I need to get to your calls. In fact, before I do that, there's some comments we've got via Twitter. So if you are tweeting, use that hashtag, The National Pulse, right? So Jack Pagati saying, the PAC had a symbolic chant during the apartheid era, which goes like, one settler, one bullet. Remember that? But they've since stopped chanting it since the dawn of democracy. It would be interesting to know what the court thinks of it, or maybe a legal opinion. I'm not calling for chanting of anything, but he's just raising the issue. Right, let's get to the other issue to raise about Starlink. Aubrey, you have a view on that, right? Hi, Aubrey.
Hi, Rush.
Yeah, go for it, Aubrey from Polokwane. I'm very well indeed, right?
I'm okay. I wanted to make a comment about this spelling.
Yeah, just go for it. Don't even ask permission. Just go for the comment. Yeah.
Yes, I say, people, our government went to USA with an empty bucket in order to ask for investment. So when they get Elon Musk to come and invest in our country, and then people started to complain about black economic empowerment, which we had it from 1994. And then it has never brought us anything because it just produced few millionaires. And then our people are poor, are not working. And then there are youth are jobless, roaming the streets. And then now here is an opportunity for investment in our country. And then this powers that be, like the union people as well as some of the ANC members, because they always want to gain unnecessarily so, even where they cannot.
But so let me ask you this then. This is important, right?
Yes.
Look, this thing will play out in the next few days. We'll know exactly what it is, right? But if the entire, so maybe there's scope to change the BEE regulations as they are, even as well as Zimbabwe himself agrees it should change, but maybe for different reasons, right? But if it's changed primarily to satisfy Elon Musk only and nobody else, that wouldn't be right, would it?
No, it's not like that. It's our country which is going to benefit, and then it's going to create some jobs here and there. And then now, just because our people have collapsed this country to nothing, that cannot create even jobs. Now, anything that is about to grow the economy of our country, they shut it down. So we don't understand what exactly these people want.
Okay. All right.
It looks like they don't have an idea as to how to create jobs, but always they complain about youth unemployment.
Okay, let's leave it at that. I think you've raised an interesting one, and I have a sense that others may call in as well and respond to you positively, negatively, or neutrally as well. Anyway, Aubrey in Polokwane. We go to Limpopo now. Kato, you put your region on the map. Kato, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very good indeed. Right, what's your point?
Whether we like it or not, a politician like Malema, we need them in our democracy because it keeps the checks on the government and the event of what's happening within the government. Because if you don't have that voice, an extra voice that will always go left when they go right, we'll never have a democracy. Democracy is all about expression. Whether Malema is right or wrong, at the end of the day, he brings the debate whether we are within our constitution or outside the constitution. Remember the VAT issue? When they raised the VAT issue, we mocked them. But at the end of the day, they have achieved what they wanted to achieve. Even now, he will go to Parliament and challenge the legality of Cyril Ramaphosa speaking about him at the White House, whether we like it or not. There was a wrongness within the White House when even Minister John Steenhuisen referred to Malema and Jacob Zuma as rebels. But then people are not talking about that. They are talking about the issues that are alive within. But then when you call an ex-president a rebel and an opposition party a leader a rebel, what are you creating for? Because my feeling is that Steenhuisen and Ramaphosa, they need to come clear to us to say we're on the business mission of government or on the business mission of personality.
Kato, I hear you, but I think you see your point about rebel, and I know what John Steenhuisen said, and some may say, well, should he even said that? But the reality is that if you follow Malema's comments about government, ANC, DA, everybody else, I mean, he insults them all the time as well. So maybe it's par for the course. They're all insulting each other all the time. The more important one, I'm not even worried about that. The important one, and I think I concur with you on this point, that I think the EFF in a decade have played a very important role in raising the consciousness on the issues of some of the key areas of the slow rate of transformation. The ANC in charge did not accelerate. So they have played a hugely important role, which I think they just stopped transforming in some key sectors. So for that, I completely agree with you. They do have a role to play. Katu, thanks for that. Zig in Randburg. Hi, Zig.
Ashraf, I wanted to know from all these people that are sort of hating Elon Musk, I wanted to know from them, what makes them think, took us down to investment junk status with 40% unemployment and half the country on the breadline starvation. What made us go down all this way from the liberation beginning?
But why do you think, I mean, let me answer the side is, why do you think so many people are hating him so much, to borrow your words? Whether they are hating him, I don't know, but why do you think they are hating him? Because? Well,
I think BEE is sacrosanct. It is an ideology that makes us charge the white people for the. But
that's not. But I mean, see, that's not the reason. That's not the reason people hate him so much. The fact is, even with BEE that allows you only need 30% of the local to benefit from it. Many other companies have investments in this country. We can list a whole lot of them, right? Why people are so disappointed with Elon Musk is not about that he's an investor. Good luck if he does. Why they're disappointed? He has peddled lies about our country. I'm upset with him. The man has lied about our country. Of course I'm upset about him. He's lied about for months on end, which I'm not taking away his bright brains. He's clearly one of the brightest men in the world, human beings in the world. But that bright that is prepared to diss our country to suit his own agenda. So why would we not be upset about him if someone does?
I think he's done us a huge favor by pointing out the flaw in our economy that made us go down for 30 years. It is BEE and is our failure to attract sufficient investment, and we're going down even further than junk status, and we have no way of returning to normality. If we don't do what Elon Musk wants us to do, which is really to scrap BEE enrichment.
I don't think he wants us to scrap BEE. He wants to invest in the country and make some money. That's really what it is. Sigyn Randberg, thanks for that. But more than the BEE part, what I'm upset with him, he dissed our country, not about BEE, about a whole lot of nonsense about where did the genocide peddling come from? Maybe 10 different groupings. He's one of them. You can't deny it because he's tweeted about it. Of all the people who's more public about it, it's been Elon Musk. It really is. So even if we do change BEE one day, he also has to change his attitude about our country. I mean, he really has to. Okay, more points. Let's get, here's one about Julius Malema.
Hi, Ashraf. This is Sabata from Durban. No. Julius Malema doesn't have a point. He's missing the point. There was a reason why Steve Hazen was invited to speak. I can't remember the actual facts, but there was a reason. It just didn't happen that out of the blue that he spoke, or the president chose him to speak. But there was something that needed him to explain it better. The context. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Well, maybe just he spoke about that in the short time that he had addressing his audience that understood fully, so you don't have to explain to them. You know, there's a difference who you're explaining it to, isn't it? Right, here's one about Ramaphosa. Think about this.
Good evening, Ashraf. I'm Svido in Watema. Malema is all big-headed for having Trump to have mentioned his name. Ramaphosa was not in White House to defend nonsensical songs. He was there for serious businesses for that. Those who are singing that song have to go around and defend and explain it. Ramaphosa has a lot in his plate to deal with than just dealing with nonsensical songs that people are singing for nonsense. Thank you.
Well, I won't respond to the nonsensical part, but I will say this much, that it's been said by many others, including Thabo Mbeki today, that once South Africa decides they may disagree with the USA, but they need to stay in the game because they can't afford to stay out of the economic game with the USA, with their ally, then that approach at the White House is very different. It's like going to a job that you're going to quit anyway. Then you can go in, you can have a big fight with your employer. But if you want to raise an issue, but you still want to stay in their position, your tone will be different. So I don't think, I tend to agree with you. I think Ramaphosa in particular had to pick certain battles that he could debate and ignore other battles that were less important. Right, here's another one on Malema.
Ashraf, Julius Malema is some character. He made me laugh really. Because he's saying Kumbuzo Shabeni was shaking there when she sees Donald Trump. And then that makes me think she's so courageous when she wants to smoke Zamazamas out of a mine. But when she sees Trump, she's shaking. Malema is some character. Anonymous from Butterworth.
Thanks, Anonymous. Do you take his word for it? That's the big question, isn't it? And there's another one about Ramaphosa and Trump. The story is not going away, is it?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Not long ago, you played a clip of Ramaphosa at some rally, telling people when he sees Donald Trump, he's going to tell him to keep his America, they will keep their South Africa. Trump cannot dictate to us what to do and all sort of things. He said he's going to tell Trump to his face. He was there in America a few not long ago. Did he tell Trump?
Clearly he didn't. Clearly we played it. Clearly he was almost he was Mugabe-esque in terms of the way he said it. We need to play that one tomorrow. Why didn't he? It's pretty obvious. It's one thing talking about someone else 10,000 kilometers away. It's another thing when you're in the same room, when you have a country to defend, isn't it?
Ashraf, good afternoon. I'm Takatayo in Ofivava. I would like to advise Mr. Malema to have mercy and think abroad and have like a wide thinking so that this Dubuli can be now stopped so that we can move forward as the diverse nation of South Africa. Really, this Dubuli is not going to take us No, I mean, we need to be serious, man. Yes, like I said, we can keep this song to our archives, like those centers, heritage centers.
Okay, let's end with that. In fact, Charles saying on Malema's remarks about Ramaphosa also felt that our president was intimidated. His body language did not show confidence. Listen, I must end with this. We're almost on news, so we need to end. Did you see that video clip of Emmanuel Macron, the leader of France, and his wife? Well, you see parts of her coming out of a plane when they were in one of the Asian countries. I think it's Cambodia, but maybe it was Vietnam. I think it was, right? And you see just her arm wearing red and basically clapping him. And then they walk out together and he sort of gives a half a smile to the camera because he knows the camera's watching him. There's been this whole frenzy about it. The sort of one talk is like, oh man, that was just done in jest. The other one's like, no, she really clapped him. But you don't see the face when she claps him. But you do see later on, they're wearing the same clothing, the red outfit, the red suit, and himself in the Navy coming out. Well, in the midst of all the biggest issues in the world, that could be the biggest story of the night. A way to end the show. This is the National Pulse. We'll do it again tomorrow. Here's Greg House.
Thank you again, Ashraf. In this news update, another sexual assault charge against police captain in meeting over Sunday's river unrest. Good evening. The police captain accused of raping a female trainee is now being charged in a second sexual assault case. The officer, who works as a police instructor, allegedly raped a 20-year-old trainee at his office at the Police Training Academy